It is an afternoon of considerable pain, thanks to the foot he burnt when winning the Canadian Grand Prix. And the ice you see here is being packed into the footwell to help keep this very precious right foot, the one that does the accelerator and the clutch, free of as much pain as possible. Nelson, how tough is it going to be for you?
Oh, I don't know. In a moment it's all right. My blitz under the foot open yesterday in the qualifying. Well, I try to do the best I can and see what's coming.
Nelson, you've never been lucky at Detroit. You didn't qualify one year. You should have won the race last year. What do you think of Detroit, and can you win it this year?
Wow, Detroit is a very exciting place to come and race. I like the circuit very much, and I hope we can have this for many years. About the race, I don't know. I hope I can do well this year. I am in a good position here. I need to do a good start and keep going to the end. It's a very long race.
Nelson, we wish you the very best of luck. And now to my distinguished colleague, the very famous motorsport journalist, Prix.
Back live here at the start-finish line. Well, the avalanche of technology that has swept over motorsports has touched more than the engines and the cars the men pilot. It has touched how races are scored. For many years, pretty girls sat in stands alongside the straightaway with stopwatches, pencils, and paper, and made notes as each car went by. Well, all that has changed. Longines of Switzerland and Olivetti of Italy have combined with $1 million effort to take over that job. Each car has a little radio on it, a transponder, weighs about ½ a pound. It has its own distinctive signal. And as it crosses over this strip of metal across the start-finish line, the signal that the transponder puts out is picked up and goes into the computer, where it is digested and flashed on these video screens, which each pit has. The information is there for all to see. It's really a lot better. It's much like buying a box of breakfast cereal in a supermarket and having the lines pass over the cash register, and the numbers are flashed up right away. It's better, it's more efficient, but the girls are gone. Back to you, Ken.
And an official welcome to you from the Detroit Grand Prix. I'm Ken Squire as we prepare for the standing start, which will send them on their way for round number 8 toward the World Championship of 1984. Let's take a moment for other news for a moment. Miami Dolphins running back David Overstreet, 25, was killed in an automobile accident outside of Tyler, Texas, near 7 a.m. this morning. Overstreet had played his college ball at Oklahoma. Our condolences are with his family. Here today, we're getting set for the start of what is going to be just a magnificent race on this gorgeous day, a race which has all the makings of being one of the fine ones. Alain Prost comes in here now, leading the point standings. No Frenchman has ever won the modern world championship. He'll be starting outside of the front row, attempting to do that today. And his teammate, Nicky Lauda, will be coming from 10th position. And what a grand year he's having, already having won 2 races. And this is the kind of course where we'll see him attacking, where one has to be precise and exact. And no one can speak better to that than the man who was out here yesterday and will be our co-host. David Hobbs is in the Trans Am Series. He is the defending United States Trans Am champion. He made a move early in the race to go out in front in the Corvette #1, and he led until halfway. And then the brakes faded on that car, and he was relegated to 7th position before it was over. But certainly David Hobbs is a fellow you can rely on to give you some information about exactly what this course can be expected to give you.
Well, Ken, that was another defeat snatched from the jaws of victory, and as you say, brake problems brought it about. And that's very easy to have here on this 20-turn course. It takes a high toll of both machine and man. Very, very physically demanding. In the next 63 laps, these guys are all going to make somewhere in the region of 2,600. That's 2,600 gear shifts, and they're going to apply the brakes around about 1,300 times, that is, other than in emergencies. These modern Formula One turbocharged engines produce prodigious horsepower. For qualifying, nearly 900. For the race, about 800. So on these short, sharp straights, the acceleration is colossal, rather like a drag car, only they have the ability to stop and steer as well. And to give you an idea of what the horsepower is like, if you were to put this in an average family car and G the horsepower up to that sort of weight, it would be like driving one of those family cars with close to 3,000 horsepower. So these guys are going to have the handful this afternoon on this tight course.
Our 16 CBS cameras ready to bring you live-to-live coverage. Stand by, for after these messages, we will introduce you to the Grand Prix grid at Detroit for '84. The starting lineup for today's Detroit Grand Prix. Front row, two-time and defending world champion Nelson PIQUET for Brabham. Beside him, the current #1 driver in the world, Alain Prost for Team McLaren. Row 2, Nigel Mansell for Team Lotus is inside, and Michele Alboreto, the man who won it last year in a Ferrari this year, starts outside. Row 3 is Ilio De Angelis of Italy for Team Lotus, and beside him, Derek Warwick for Team Renault. Row 4 is Ayrton Senna of Brazil and Eddie Cheever of the United States for Team Alfa Romeo. Row 5, Patrick Tambay has recovered from his crash at Monaco for Team Renault, and beside him the two-time world champion Niki Lauda. Row 6 is Martin Brundle of Great Britain and Andre de Cesaris of Italy. Row 7, Thierry Boutsen from Belgium and Manfred Winkelhock in the ATS from Germany. Row 8 for Team Ferrari, René Arnoux, and beside him from Germany for Team Tyrrell, Stefan Belloff. Row number 9 is the two-time world motorcycle champion from Venezuela, John Chicotto, and the Frenchman, Francois Hainaut. In row 10, Jacques Lafitte, and another new name in racing, Philippe Elio. Going to row 11, the 1982 world champion, Keke Rosberg, and from Austria comes Mark Schur. In row 12, the man who sat on the pole at Indy a year back, Teo Fabi, and from Great Britain, Dr. Jonathan Palmer. It's an all-Italian 13th row. Riccardo Patrese for Alfa Romeo on the inside, and for Team Osella, it's Piero Carlo Cinzani on the outside. That's the starting grid for the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix. 2.5 miles, 20 turns, and what do they look like? Here's David Hobbs with a description.
By courtesy of Nelson PIQUET and the Brabham team, we were fortunate enough to go around a lap of the track here with the pole sitter himself. Here he is leading the pits. That's the easy bit. Accelerating up downhill on Riverside Drive in front of the Detroit River, up to about 165 miles an hour in the race, braking here for turn 1. Braking right into the corner at this stage. Now he'll start to get on the power. The road here actually falls away a little bit. Doesn't show up too well, but it falls away to the right. But he'll be now hard on it as he accelerates up to the gears. Second, third, fourth, and fifth down this backside up, coming up to the Renaissance Center. Starting to brake pretty hard here. Down the second gear. Fairly slow corner, but a good smooth approach. But a rough apex. You can see his head wobbling there. Up the hill here. Over the old railroad track there. There's a big bump. And he brakes very hard here. Turns right. This is also just a little bit bumpy. Now he'll be really hard on it in second gear. Up to third, up to fourth. Up to about 100, 130 miles an hour by this stage. Up to 145, 150 here. As he starts to come into this left-hander here, it's a little bit ill-defined. It turns left a little bit. Looks like it could be quite a quick corner, but suddenly he's got to be hard on it for this very sharp left-hander onto Congress Street as he goes past the University of Detroit. The road here curves right and then left, but at least it's very, very smooth through here and wide. So he goes flat out, straight across those apexes. Down to the right-hand side of the road here, wheels off the track, it looks, braking hard as he turns left here. This is a sort of a bit of a mishmash here, sharp left, keeping over to the left to make this right-hander as straight as possible. And now accelerating down the second longer straight here, 1,500 foot. He's going to reach about 145, 150 miles an hour down here. As he brakes at the end here, the road's pretty smooth, but in fact it's so smooth that it's quite slick. As he stops and turns very sharp left here, again, no problem, not too fast. Stay in the same gear, left. A swing right here. You can see they've cut the road back a little bit there so they can swing wide. And he accelerates now down Jefferson Street. Now this is bumpy down here, and there seems to be a plethora of manhole covers for some reason or other. They must have trouble with the plumbing down here at some stage. Anyway, he brakes very hard now for the second slowest corner as he comes up to the Cobo Hall. A bit of a squirt in second. He may select third as he goes down that left-hander, swoops down here, right over to the left, clips the guardrail on the right there as he goes under the bridge. A short, sharp acceleration here, probably stay in the same gear, and now he's hard on the brakes as he turns into the slowest corner here, which leads him onto the Atwater Street. Okay, accelerating really hard under the tunnel. It's not quite as dark as that in the tunnel, in actual fact. You can see where he's going. And he's now reaching the second highest velocity on this racetrack. He'll be up to around about 150 miles an hour. Terrific bump there as they brake. Back down to second. Sharp right. A little bit bumpy in the middle here. And then sharp left and very bumpy on exit here, especially if you get over near the wall. Accelerates up to third, fourth gear. He'll be reaching about 130 here. Dab on the brake, probably down to third as he sweeps through the chicane, just missed that guardrail on the left and accelerates up to the fastest pace on this course where he'll be reaching somewhere around about 160, 165 miles an hour.
The field still rolling out as you watch live the preliminary lap for the Detroit Grand Prix. Nelson PIQUET of Brazil on the pole. A new record, 1 minute, 40 and 980 1/1000ths of a second, breaking the old mark of 1 minute, 44 and 734 1/1000ths of a second by our new a year ago. Now this lap now, this preliminary lap, is a counting lap. If someone should fall out here, they would still be marked in the record book as having been in the Detroit Grand Prix.
Well, this makes up really for the warm-up lap on a rolling start. They don't have rolling starts. They have these incredibly exciting standing starts. So they do this one lap, warm the tyres, warm the engine, warm the brakes a little bit, and they'll come to rest up the front here very, very briefly. The lights will be red, and they'll change to green, and that is when the tension is running at its absolute highest.
7 rookies in the field.
One of whom has qualified incredibly well. That's Ayrton Senna from Brazil, who's qualified in 7th spot in a car that up till now has not been particularly competitive, but boy, he's really getting it wound up.
The car that won here a year ago, the normally aspirated Ford Cosworth Tyrrell car that won here with Alboreto. Alboreto now driving one of the blood red Ferraris.
Well, Michele himself is not a rookie, but he's not been in Formula One very long, 2 seasons, and he's making a tremendous account of himself. And of course, when he won the Belgian Grand Prix a few weeks back, he was the first Italian to win in an Italian car for 18 years, so Ferrari are obviously very happy with him.
They haven't had a world champion driver of Ferraris in the days of the scars. Senna's car still showing the scars of his severe practice crash. You saw it in our opening today. He hit right at this chicane before you come into the start-finish line area. Sides bear no decals on his car, obviously hand-painted repairs, a major crash, and they had no spare car. They had to put his car back together, and he is the man, as they come to Cobo Hall, directly in front of Cobo Hall, as you watch live here in Detroit, that finished second in that highly disputed race in Monaco. It will not be until July 18th. There was a report of June 18th when a decision would be made on that dispute. Some feel they should have restarted the race. Others felt that it be closed in. Of course, the race is over, so I think it's going to go in the book as half points as has been shown, but there have been 2 protests lodged about Monaco.
Well, he drove absolutely fantastically in appalling conditions at Monaco, and many people feel that he should have, the race should have carried on because the rain hasn't got significantly worse.
David, most people just have a little problem with that tunnel. It looks so dark, so black when you flash out of the brilliant daylight into the darkness and back out again.
Well, at this time of the day, of course, the sun is at its highest, and it is very dark in there, and a lot of these guys will be wearing tinted visors, which doesn't help, but it really isn't too bad in there.
Now, here they come to this chicane,
which, as you can see,
we'll have an extra camera there this year, and that was right where Ayrton Senna crashed, and crashed hard 2 days ago.
Well, to make the most of this chicane, you must obviously come off it very fast because you're coming off the fastest straight on the track, and to come off it fast means getting to within a couple of inches of the guardrail, and if it goes wrong, you've no room for error.
Standing start, and as you remember 1 year ago, as you watched Prost come online in the red and white Marlboro car, right on the start, 1 year ago, Patrick Tambay's Ferrari had problems, and everybody missed it.
Now really starting to pound as they watch for these lights.
All right, standing start, watch the lights. When they go green, the Detroit Grand Prix will be underway live on CBS.
Waiting for the back rows to fill up now and come to rest. The front rows now starting to get a bit edgy as the engines get hot.
PK has had trouble on 2 starts this year in Brazil, first race of the year. He has run. Red light is on. Underway. Like a big crash at the start. One car flipped around as one of the Brabham cars, I believe, is up against the wall, just past the line.
I think that's Nelson too, isn't it? Oh, no, it's Mark Shearer and Nelson PIQUET. Nelson PIQUET, pole sitter, out before the race even starts. What a tremendous disappointment.
Let's see if they'll bring the field back down.
Probably will, I don't know quite. They're taking a rather long road.
Prost is out in front in the number 7 car. There you see Nelson PIQUET, and beside him Mark Shearer, who's had 2
and another spin. One of the Ferraris has spun. Just down by the Renaissance Centre, that looks like number 27. That's Arnie's broken his radiator.
Alboreto's car.
Not just a simple
winner
spin.
at Belgium. He sat on the pole at Belgium, and he is in trouble, and one of the Ferraris has been retired. This course is so precise, so exacting, and so bumpy. Lots of complaints from the drivers about the course, but that would seem almost natural when a course is as tough as this one is.
Well, it's so narrow, too, and there's nowhere to go. In most courses, at a start like that, and you can try and overtake somebody, you can put a wheel on the grass,
This
but there is
car
no
was
grass.
involved in that shunt. That number 27 was in there. We have several replays we can look at in a moment.
It seems odd, actually, that Mark Shearer would be involved with Nelson Piquet, because Shearer was well down on the grid, and I'm sure he just
Let's go to Barry Gill. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Nelson, are you all right? Well, Nelson is on a talk at the moment under the team crew. Do you know what happened?
Manziel looks like came up the center, but just wasn't space for three of them.
Is Nelson all right?
Yeah, Nelson's okay.
Thank you very much.
There was concern that Nelson Piquet, red flag is out. They are going to red flag the Detroit Grand Prix. A red flag will be out, and it's happened every year of this race. It happened in the first year, back in 1982 when Watson won the race. Happened last year. Now, let's watch this restart, David.
Oh, there's Nigel Mansell pulled out, and he tags them. It's Nigel Mansell trying to get in a gap that just is not there. What a disappointment. I mean, obviously in a race like this, one obviously has to get near the front on this sort of course, but this winning the race on the first lap syndrome is just absolutely ridiculous. But there we see him go there. Jumps out from second spot, tries to get through an absolutely non-existent gap, and completely fouls everybody else to stay up.
Now,
And that
you see the Ferrari. Where's the Ferrari getting through?
Wheel whips the front wheel off that Tolman, which we haven't seen yet, but that must have taken a very hard knock. And that wheel still flying through the air, hit by another car there. And poor old Mark Shearer there, coming up from out of nowhere, runs right into Nelson, puts him out of the race.
Let's go to Barry Gill.
Mark Shearer, a terrible start to Detroit Grand Prix. What happened?
I started at the back of the grid, and when I arrived in the front, there was Piquet's car right across the track. I tried to move forward, but there was obviously oil on the track, so just slided into Piquet.
You're okay, are you?
Yeah, but my car is, front corner is off, so I cannot restart.
Chris Economaki has further news about the story. Over to you, Chris.
All right, we're here with Nelson Piquet's car. As you can see, the right rear wheel is torn off. The wing support has been torn off. But more importantly, gasoline or fuel is dripping out. And if anyone around here has a cigarette, we should have a big fire. You can see the damage is extensive when you consider the cars had only gone a very few feet from that standing start. Okay, back to you, Ken.
Nelson Piquet. This is his bad luck course. He couldn't even qualify 2 years ago. Last year, leading for some time, then at a tire puncture. And this year, some 300 feet from the line. The car getting punched into the wall, and there were at least 4 cars involved. Ayrton Senna's car is also being reported as involved. That was the Coleman car that spun down toward
Well, it didn't spin. The wheel, Nelson's wheel, bounced right onto the front of his car. An absolute miracle, that wheel. You could see it bouncing around on all those replays. A miracle it didn't jump onto someone's head in the cockpit, which obviously could have proven to be fatal. But I just caught a glimpse of it hitting one of those.
Let's go to Chris Economaki quickly.
I have here Philippe Alliot, car number 9, who looks like he's ready to go back in the race. Are you all right?
Yes, for me it's okay. I just pushed Lafitte when the crash arrived. I pushed Lafitte with my front, and the nose is broke, but it's nothing for me.
Why did the accident happen?
I don't know. I see the car very, very slow before me, but it's too late for me. I braked very hard, but it's too late, and I don't know what happened before.
Your hand is steady? You're ready?
It's ready for me for the race, no problem.
Okay, bon chance.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, back to you, Ken.
30-minute hold in the race. A 30-minute hold. Let's take one more look at what happened. There you see Mansell in the black number 12 coming up the middle.
And miraculously, Mansell just got away with it somehow.
He collects the Ferrari, the red Ferrari on the outside of Michele Alboreto, who won here a year ago. He backs the Brabham into the wall. Mark Shearer has no place to go.
And meanwhile, that wheel is bouncing around up there, creating general havoc amongst the rest of the cars.
Well, this will allow the competitors to refuel on the grid. We have a 30-minute hold in the race. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Nigel Mansell, not the start of the race that anybody wanted. Could you tell us exactly what happened?
Well,
red lights turned to green. I got away and I got an initial jump on Nelson and Alain. There's a gap in the middle. I went for the gap in the middle, accelerated in first and was virtually alongside them. And then all of a sudden both cars just started to come in. I had nowhere to go. And Alan came across first, which pushed me into Nelson. I just moved. Then Nelson started to come across, and I tried and move away from him. I got nowhere to go. I just tried to keep my wheels away from each of them. And then, of course, one of us touched.
Now, is your car okay?
I don't know. It took a bang on the front and a bang on the rear. The mechanics are just looking at it now. I sincerely hope so.
Under the rules of the race, Nigel, are they now allowed to repair that car?
Yeah, no, it's a completely new race now. So, you know, the race hasn't started yet.
Nigel, may I ask you as a driver, all the tension you had for the start, all the way there, what do you have to do now to get yourself back into the mood to start all over again?
Oh, no problem at all. You know, we're ready to go again. Everybody's ready. I think we'll all probably be looking in our mirrors a bit to make sure no one's come up. But, you know, it's just crazy to try and squeeze someone out when they're there.
Thank you very much indeed, Nigel Mansell. Back to you, Ken.
David? Well, it is crazy to try and squeeze someone out in the air. It's also crazy trying to squeeze a pint into a quart pot. But I think what this does mean now in the rules of Formula One is that Nelson Piquet can probably get his spare car out.
Chris Economaki is standing by with Alain Prost.
Alain, it was a surprise start. Did you see how and why the accident began?
No, I didn't see anything because I did a good start and the accident was behind me, so I did not see nothing.
Okay, so you have to do it all over again. What happens now to your car in the 30 minutes we wait? Any work to be done on it?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe they can put just a little more fuel because the rest will be the same and we did one lap, but I don't think it could affect anything on the car and we don't change anything because the car was good.
You are the world's greatest drivers in the world's greatest series. Why do we have episodes like this at the start of a race?
Why do you think we have accidents like that? I mean, I think the problem is this kind of track is the start is very dangerous, and some drivers are a bit too nervous at the start, and I think we must be a bit more careful because the race is very long, it's about 2 hours, and we have time to pass the other cars. Not nowhere to try to pass everybody at start.
In other words, the time to race is once you get to speed. The time to race is once you're away from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I told you the race is long, and I try to do good start because I am in first row, but otherwise you have to be careful, that's the problem.
And how do you feel? Are you a little bit shaky?
No, not at all. I'm not concentrated. I try to do the same start than before, and it should be okay.
Okay, bon chance.
Thank you.
Okay, Alain Prost, back to you, Ken.
There we see
and
Nelson
Alboreto are
Piquet.
both bringing up their backup cars. They have both gone to their backup cars. Here's another replay from still another angle on the start. And there you see Nigel Mansell springing up between the two leaders, getting tagged. He goes to the wall on the outside. The Ferrari has no place to go.
Now you see that wheel come down right on the front of De Senna's car, ripping his front wheel off. Bounces in, hits the fence. It's going to bounce back on the track now. No, it's not. Yes, it is. There it comes. I thought we'd seen it twice before. How it doesn't kill those three people, I don't quite know, but it didn't. In fact, it collected the other Tolman. And there we see poor old Mark Schuer. There's absolutely nothing to do with it. Come whistling up out the background. And that car, which we couldn't identify there, scraped
That was
through.
Ariel Renshardt down on the bottom of the... So, Piquet and Alboreto are in backup cars when we prepare for the restart here at the Renaissance Center in Detroit. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Bernie, I gather you have a plan B ready to put into effect.
I don't know anything about it, sorry.
No, I mean, you have your other car out here on the line.
sure. That's
All right.
normal. It's not any plan.
I know that. I mean, you're always ready for an emergency. What about this car? He obviously chose the best one to go in the race.
The other one's a race car, which is prepared for the race. This is a backup car. So we prepared them the same, but it's totally prepared as well as the other one.
Have you had any indication of how Nelson is feeling? He wasn't feeling too well with his feet and so forth, and now this episode, will he be himself once the race gets underway?
Yeah, it won't hurt his feet. It's quite all right.
I know that. You take it much lighter than the rest of us do here. But seriously, you know, the one thing that worried me about Nelson Piquet is just before the race, he ate a great big pepperoni pizza, and I wondered if that would affect his performance.
Maybe that's the reason. I think Mansell must have had one.
Okay, so you look confident and happy. What will you think this accident cost you in terms of equipment, Bernie?
No idea, honestly. The car's pretty bad, I think. It's just part of That's how it is. It's suspension.
As we say in this country, that's racing.
That's right.
All right, thanks so much and better luck second time around, Bernie. And now to Barry Gill down pit road.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well, we've just talked to the race officials, and just to make it absolutely clear, we're told there has been no race. The race didn't last 2 laps, so there hasn't been one. So it all starts again, and that means that the teams can choose any car they like. They can refuel, of course, they can top up with fuel again, and the race will last the full distance. Obviously, the Brabham's going to have a new car here. We understand Alvareto's having a new car, and we're going to check on Team Lotus. The reason Nelson PIQUET did want to speak to us earlier, he was quite stunned by the shock, and his neck was quite badly damaged, we heard. Although I see him walking fast now, although he's looking pale, doesn't look too bad. I'm sure Nelson will be back in the second race, again in pole position. Back to you, Chris.
I'm here by Nelson PIQUET's replacement car, and the work that's being done on it, believe it or not, is not on the engine, it's not on the suspension, it's not on the tires, it's on the electronic computer. They're reprogramming it for some reason. Apparently it wasn't programmed for the race. And that is the expensive device that manages the fuel control and dictates the horsepower of this engine. It's a very hot and humid day, and all of these things are taken into consideration when programming this electronic brain. Weighs about 20 pounds. It's down inside the right rear wheel, and the electronics expert is now making those changes. It's almost like a television repairman getting your set ready to go back on again. Okay, so with the car is ready to go, with the exception of the computer, and around the front. Okay, if the cameraman will turn around to the left front wheel, you can see that they're putting the ice back in the footwell here. This is because of Nelson PIQUET's burned feet that Barry Gill talked about earlier. So we're going to have one of the fastest refrigerator cars in the world here for Nelson PIQUET once this race restarts. Okay, that's it for here.
Well, I'm standing, Chris, with Peter Wall, the manager of Team Lotus. The man who's Nigel Mansell, of course, was squeezing through to the lead. What's your version of the incident, Peter?
Well, I'm sorry to say, Barry, I saw neither the start nor the television coverage of it, but Nigel's rear wheel is certainly damaged, so he certainly banged something in the way.
Now, the Ferrari and the Brabham team are changing cars. This is, in fact, the same car he was driving, isn't it?
Yes, we've had the opportunity to have a careful check, and only the rear wheel was damaged. The suspension is perfectly all right.
And how are you going to wind Nigel up to get back into the race and to start all over again?
Well, the rules say it's an entirely fresh event, and I'm hoping that he's going to put that one clear out of his mind and concentrate on the next 63 laps, because they're the important ones.
Thank you very much, Peter Ward. Now, Chris Economic, back to you.
McKelly, it looked like you had the best seat in the house for the accident. How did it start and why did it happen?
I think Mansell came in the middle of Nelson and Frost and touched the rear wheels of Nelson. Nelson spun and came into my side body.
What did you think when you saw that?
Oh, I think my race is finished.
And how did you get through?
My car was stopped after 2 corners.
But you did not touch, no, you touched nothing.
I touched the wall and the Nelson car.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my car is destroyed.
Oh, so now you have the extra car too, huh?
Yeah.
All right, what do you think about the spare car? As good as the first one?
I don't think so, but the situation is like that.
So do you think your luck at Detroit 1984 will be as good as 1983?
I hope so.
Okay, we do too. Buona fortuna. Okay, McKelly Alvaretto going back to his car. Now back to the booth and Ken Squire.
McKelly Alvaretto, who had trouble right at the start, and he was trying to limp back around the track. He made it all the way to turn number 3, Atwater and St. Antoine here.
Obviously, the suspension got totally deranged in the initial crash. In fact, you can see the left front wheel there's all out of shape, and that caused his spin. But
leaking liquid, too, that caught up on the rear wheel and spun him out.
It obviously broke the radiators, because these cars all have the radiators and intercoolers hanging out of these side pods, so they're all terribly vulnerable in the case of an accident.
Barry Gill is standing by with Nicky Lauda.
Nicky, this is a very unfortunate start to the Detroit Grand Prix. What did you see of the incident?
I only saw that Nelson hit the wall on the right side, and I had to avoid him and slow right down and really stop not to get involved into the accident. That's really all I know, so I can't say much about it.
How difficult was it for you to avoid the accident? Because we have had tragedies at the start of races in the past. I mean, it looked very nasty indeed.
I mean, the most important thing is not to try and to take an advantage out of it. I think the most important thing is to slow right down and really try to avoid it.
Nicky, don't you think perhaps people are a little too eager? They perhaps haven't got your experience, trying to get the lead at the very start of the very first lap?
I mean, I don't think there's any point for that because the race is now 62 laps long, so it's a long way to go. But you certainly tried to do a good start and maybe just overdid it a bit.
Nicky, thank you for talking to us. Let's hope we have a clean start next time. Back to you, Chris Economaki.
I'm back here in midfield with Ayrton Senna, the young Brazilian who has done so well in small-bore Formula racing, but is a rookie this year in Formula One. As a new driver to Formula One, what crosses your mind when you see something like this happen in front of you?
Well, I think I was lucky to be right in the front and able to see all the action. If you start on the back of the grid, you don't see anything. So I saw all the action going, and then I tried to avoid. I was out of the way. Then a wheel just flew in the air and landed straight on the nose of my car. I was lucky that didn't land here. So, but unfortunately, damaged my race car, and now I'm starting with the spare car.
Is your spare car as good as the original?
I hope so. I didn't try the spare car, but basically it's very similar to my race car. But when you're not used with another car, it's always difficult to get going right. Huh?
Are you nervous?
No, I was a bit excited at the moment. I didn't know that they were going to stop the race. And then when they stopped, I thought it was good because I had the chance to start again and race it.
Well, good luck, Ayrton.
Thank you.
Okay, and back to you, Ken Squire.
Senna, who won 46 of 60 races, 10 straight at one time last year, and winning a championship, ready to try again in the Detroit Grand Prix, which is in a temporary hold. More live coverage from Detroit in a moment.
They usually kill people in the crowd.
We're back with you once again live from the Renaissance Center here in Detroit, where the Detroit Grand Prix has been put into a red flag condition. Just after the start, some 300 feet, a multi-car crash eliminated 3 vehicles. They have been replaced, and the field is now being reorganized for the restart of the event. As we understand, there will be one more lap for grid, one formation lap, and then a green light to get this race back underway. Here is Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with Derek Warwick, the Renault team leader. Derek, you were awfully close to that accident, weren't you? What happened as far as you're concerned?
Well, I made a very good start, and I was following the pack through. Nigel made a very good start. Nelson made a poor start. Started to go through the gap, and halfway through the gap hit the rear wheel of Nelson, and Nelson went sideways straight into Michele. And I was very fortunate. I went to the left-hand side of the circuit, and everything just bounced around me and never hit me.
Derek, you remember, as I do, the tragedy in the Canadian Grand Prix 2 years ago. Do you think the time has come to change the starting procedure of Grand Prix racing, perhaps a rolling start?
I don't really know. I think maybe give us more room on the grid. It might be better. A rolling start, I think, could be very, very dangerous, especially on a track as narrow as this. I think maybe this expanded grid, make it even longer and wider apart would be much better.
Derek, I've asked 2 of the other drivers this question. You're going to have to start this race all over again. You're having to get your mental attitude right again. I mean, how do you do it?
Well, I mean, it's something you just condition yourself for, you know. It's the first time you get in. It's a disappointment after getting through an accident. You know, you'd wish the race kept going. But when it stops, and you have to cope with it. And you just settle down and start again.
What have you done to your car to prepare it for the second race, if I can call it that?
Nothing at all. The car was very nice. I was catching Elio and Nigel very easily. And I'm very pleased with the car.
So you've just topped it up with fuel and that's it?
That's right.
Derek Warwick, thank you for talking to us. The drivers are relaxing now, and Chris Economaki, also very relaxed, is with one of them.
Patrick Cambrai has done what I've been wanting to do for the last 20 minutes. Sitting down. Thank you, Patrick. You all right?
Yes, I hope we're going to get it right this time so we don't have to do this again.
I'm ready for that. I'm about burned out. Patrick, how much pressure did you put on your bad leg to get the car stopped when all of this happened in front of you?
Well, I was putting the pressure on the right leg to accelerate as fast as possible out of my starting box. I had a good one, better than last year's here, if you recall. And the 2 Renaults took off well, and we were 4th and 5th, I believe, in the first left hand in the first corner. Now we have to try to do it again.
Well, where were you in relation to the accident, and what did you see of it?
Well, I sneaked on the left-hand side of Senna, and I saw a wheel flying, and I just cleared it, and he must have fallen on him in the back of me. I was on the left-hand side on the pit exit lane, and I just saw a lot of mess on the right-hand side, and I just tucked in on the corner.
And you didn't slow down as you went by, you just sped through, huh?
Yes, because if you start slowing down, I could just see the timing, that cars were shutting themselves, and I just could see the hole. You slow down, and the rest of the pack in the back will come and pile on top of you, so you must try to make your way through.
Everybody talks, Patrick, about the mental conditioning you have to do before the start of a Grand Prix. You've done it once. How difficult is it to bring yourself to that point a second time in the same day?
Well, obviously, it's a little bit more difficult, but we're going to have to do it. It's just a matter of putting back your helmet on and isolate yourself once again, and concentrate on the motions of starting, which is when you have to put your first gear in relationship to the red light. If you want to do it too soon, you may burn your clutch, and how to be really sharp when the green light comes and try to find the right traction on the wheels without letting the boost of the turbo go down. You got to try to program yourself to do it again.
After this first start, did you learn anything about the man alongside or the man in front that will help you in this one?
Well, I hope the other ones learn. I mean, they've done the mistake. They've been allowed to take their T cars. I think they should. I think they should go back to their hotel rooms.
In the United States, if you have this type of an accident, you must go to the end of the line. You think that might be a good rule for the future?
I think they should start at the back of the pack. Yes, I do.
All right, Patrick Tambay, married to an American and driver for Renault. Back to you, Ken.
Patrick Tambay still recovering from that crash at Monaco, and he broke his ankle. His first race he's run since then. Bob McCabe, the man who has put this race together, said if he could get $1 for every window from which there is an observer, this race would be back in the black. The Detroit Grand Prix is expected to resume about 1:50. That's the latest news we have. We're looking for a restart about 1:50. Back with more in a moment.
Presenting the new Renault Fuego. Inspired by the...
We're with you live in Detroit, Michigan for the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix, which is under a red flag condition after a crash at the start this afternoon, and we're about 10 minutes from the time they will get these cars running once again. Well, we, right here at the start line, saw a couple of these cars dismantled in record time. Earlier, we had an opportunity to see what these cars are all about. Chris Economaki took this look.
The magic name in international road racing is Formula One. But what does it mean? Firstly, Formula means single-seater, open wheel. And Formula One is the premier car of that designation. There's Formula 2, 3, all of lesser categories. The interesting thing about Formula One is that you cannot buy one. You must make it. The International World Championship Series is open only to constructors. No matter how much money you have, you cannot buy one of these cars. You must design it and make it. Now let's take a look at a first-line Formula One car undressed. This is a car of Alain Prost, the World Championship point leader. First of all, the latest construction techniques and materials are used. For example, metal, which used to be part of the chassis, has been disposed of. This is carbon fiber graphite, made in Utah for the McLaren team. High-quality steel is still used in the suspension parts, and the shock absorbers and springs are inside the bodywork so as not to obstruct the flow of air past the wheel. The engine is in the back, which means the driver is seated in the front of the car. His seat is carbon fiber. There's no upholstery. It's molded to his body. A very small steering wheel, a cluster of instruments, controls, but perhaps the most important control of all is this knob, the boost control knob. All the way to the left, you have 500 horsepower. This much gives you 215 more horsepower, 715 horsepower. That's known as turning up the boost. As we move back along the car, we see that the car becomes much wider here to accommodate the oil and water radiators, the fuel tank in the middle here, which is also made of carbon fiber, and the most advanced thing in Formula One racing today, the computer that controls fuel management, new this year. The engine back here, specially designed for this car. It's an 80-degree V6 engine, financed by the Arabians, called Techniques Avant-Garde, and made by Porsche. It has 2 turbochargers, one on either side of the car, off the titanium exhaust headers. Behind the engine, which is part of the car really ends here. And the engine is a stressed member of the chassis. The rear suspension and gearbox is on it, and the wings, which are also made of carbon fiber. What does it cost? It's hard to say, because the engine is supplied by one entity, the chassis is supplied by another entity, all looked at as developmental exercises. The car could cost well over $1 million if you had to pay for everything, but it makes for exciting racing, and it's great sport.
Less than 3 minutes. The 3-minute board is up until they take the preliminary lap and get us set for a restart on the Detroit Grand Prix. Controversy down here along the false grid. Let's go to Chris Economaki.
Well, in baseball, they have what are known as clubhouse lawyers. And Marco Piccinini of the Ferrari team is auto racing's clubhouse lawyer. He has said that some of the drivers, after the race was stopped, did not follow proper procedure and therefore should not be given a warm-up lap. They're starting now. Whether or not all of them will get the warm-up lap remains to be seen. It's a very thick rule book and lots of fine print. Okay, back to you, Barry Gill.
We're back with you in the booth, right at the start-finish line. We have been under a delay here on the start of the Detroit Grand Prix. Field getting ready for a preliminary lap. Let's take a look one more time at what happened to bring us to this situation today. As the field was coming off the start, at the line, Nigel Mansell made a move that forced the Ferrari, the red Ferrari of Alvarado, into the wall. He collected the #1 car of Piquet, which is about to be hit by Mark Schurer's car. See the wheel flying? And that's the thing which had everyone here at Ayrton Senna's car gravely concerned. That weighs about 80 or 85 pounds. Back in 1968, I remember Mike Spence being killed by his own wheel at Indianapolis. And, of course, this year, Jacques Villeneuve was hurt at Indianapolis with a flying tire. And that's why he didn't start the Indy 500.
That's right. And there we see the only real victim of that crash, poor old Mark Schurer from Switzerland, the only guy here without a backup car, so he is out of the race. Very unfortunate for him. It's been unfortunate for Nigel Mansell, really, because he did make an extremely good start, and it's a shame to throw it away. On the other hand, of course, it's no good going for a gap that's non-existent. And there's 63 other laps to try and win this race. Although around these streets of Detroit, obviously the best start and the best position you can get early on, the better. But nevertheless, a bit of an error of judgment, but he did make a tremendously good start in the first place.
The Goodyear Blimp America from Houston, Texas, giving us pictures of Tiger Stadium, where Milwaukee's in town today. And there's the Renaissance Center from where we are speaking today. There's the Goodyear Blimp, Captain Jim Dexter out of Maryland, and George Nader giving us those tremendous pictures. Detroit really becoming a performance center these days, thanks to people like Hitman Hearns, the rejuvenated Pistons, Tigers, and this great Detroit Grand Prix, which has really rejuvenated the downtown section along the Detroit River. The third year for this event. And a record crowd is here today. They had a record crowd yesterday for the Trans Am Series. We're sorry to report that David Hobbs did not win.
I did not win. Fate snatched it away from me. We led for a long time and had a good race, but unfortunately we didn't win it. And let's hope that their race today is less eventful. We had a good race in the streets here. In fact, there wasn't many crashes, although the Formula One guys had a bad day on Friday. Saturday was relatively uneventful, and obviously we hope now on this race course.
In that Trans Am race yesterday, Tom Gloy was victorious. Willie T. Ribs, your old teammate, came back and had second. Paul Newman ran third a lot of the day in the Trans Am Series, and then he had motor problems as well.
Yes, there's more oil on the track here than there is in Houston. I think most of it's gone today.
Said Dallas. That's where we'll be next. Our next live Formula One broadcast on CBS will come from Dallas, Texas on Sunday, July 8th. And that is a brand new venue for these cars. We hope you'll be with us on Sunday, July 8th. 2 American World Championship Formula One races, both on CBS this year. Coming up for a restart now, they are reporting, David.
Going through this very sharp corner, coming up to the chicane, the fastest sweeper here, probably taken in third gear in these, third out of 6 speeds. That is, these cars now have 6-speed gearboxes. and they're coming onto the front straight where they'll take the start, and of course, which is the fastest part of this racetrack.
That chicane is just about, what, an inch? Less than an inch move to get through with a very quick steering.
There is no room for two cars in there, obviously. It's a one-car track.
Ready for the start once again. Detroit Grand Prix is online. Piquet to the point. Alain Prost, number 1 in the world currently, from France in second. Watch for the red light when it turns green. They will be underway now with 25 cars. Mark Shore having retired after that crunch.
Cars still sitting on the back of the grid. When the red light comes on, there's supposed to be 5 seconds to the green.
Pray for a safe start.
Now everybody's deciding, shall I put in first now? Are we ready to put in first gear?
Cleared away. Under brakes. Piquet in the backup car. Edges out in front as they squeeze into turn 1. Through turn 2. Move on to Atwater Street. For the first time to 130 miles per hour. Piquet with a 4-car length advantage. Now into a very tight right-hander onto St. Antoine. 70, 80 miles per hour through here. To Woodbridge.
Very tight little straight there. Senna moved up the outside there. They come to this fast left-hand sweeper before they have to brake sharp left here, turn left here to go on the contract.
Prost, third. Correction. In the third spot, Mansell, and fourth, Alvarado. One of the V8 Turbo Alfa Romeos now showing in fifth. The cheaper for Prix. And the Renault running just behind him in the sixth position. 6-car length advantage for Nelson Piquet, 1981 and 83 world champion. Get down Margaret Street.
Car smoking back there. I think it's Matt Winkelhock. Hard to tell, but it looks like Matt Winkelhock's car smoking. Nelson Piquet got a pretty handy lead over Alain Prost there, who closes up on braking. Oh, and then Nelson gets his tail out a bit there.
Goes under the bridge.
First lap caution car to still a bit cool. Then the Benetton car well up there. Alain Prost right on his heels. Nigel Mansell as they go under the Atwater Tunnel.
That's the ATS of Winkelhock. BMW-powered car from Mansell Winkelhock of West Germany in trouble. They have not had a good year. Here they come are through the tunnel already. Coming to the chicane.
Hear the whistle of the turbo there on that BMW engine through the chicane. Get that dead right, or you're in big trouble. Alvarado in third spot. And one of the Renaults up there in fifth. There's the Angelis. And Nicky Lauda up in seventh spot.
Tom Bay looking very good up in the front 7 of the early going. Through the fastest part of the course. Down into turns 1 and 2. Nelson Piquet, who won last week, trying to come back to win the World Championship, and he'll really have to come up from under because they've had all kinds of mechanical problems on the Brabham BMW-powered car until they came to Canada a week ago and were victorious. Some say it was a wastegate on the turbocharger. They say they have copied to some degree Brian Hart's design for the Hart car, and it worked. Came in victory last week. Can he stay there, and can he become the first man since back in 1960 to win back-to-back? Imagine that. Since 1960, no one has won the World Championship back-to-back.
Good race going on there for fifth spot. A lot of dicing going on between a couple of cars there. We see Nigel Mansell swinging through. Keeps a good tight line. It's essential to have the car handling very well around here because there just isn't room for error anywhere.
You see Mansell in third, directly behind him. Alvarado.
Down to the Cobo Hall area as they go under the bridge, the footbridge. Into a flash of darkness there. Can't have a flash of darkness, but under the Atwater Tunnel, which is also pretty gloomy, but not too bad. Alvarado hanging on well in the Ferrari. They've had a mixed year this year as well. Coming down to brake, very bad bump there as they brake for this sharp right-hand corner. Swing to this little complex, very rough on the left of the road there. Bar picture, left of our picture, right hand of their road.
Just flipping to the outside of the wall about 70, 75 miles per hour. That is Eddie Cheever. Cheever of the United States. You don't want to miss there. You just have to be so precise, so exact. That is exactly where Ayrton Senna had a terrible crunch the other day. Back with the leaders. Piquet first, Prost second, third, Mansell. Lotus Renault powered car. Alvarado running fourth. Cheever is in fifth. And the sixth position now belongs to Derek Warwick, who drove to that second place finish. Brilliant job in the Belgium race. Team Ferrari won. And Prost seems to be reeling in that leader Piquet a bit.
Alan Prost seems to me to be able to hold a tighter line than Nelson PIQUET. There we see a picture of Nelson leading this race after that disastrous first start, but Prost is definitely gaining on him. But Prost seems to me to be using less road than Nelson. Because Nelson is using his backup car, so these are the first 2 laps he's driven in that car.
Down over the manhole covers by Cobo Hall. Very difficult turn, that one.
Extremely tight, completely blind.
With another car off the course.
That looks like one of the Williams. Is it Williams? No, it's not a Williams. That balloon is rather in the way.
That is reported as Elio.
That's Jonathan Palmer.
That's his teammate. That's Elio's teammate, Dr. Jonathan Palmer, driving the Ram Hart car, 4-cylinder inline car.
That's a shame, because Jonathan Palmer and I raced together a lot in those Group C races in Europe. And he's an aspiring young driver, and he's actually had to find some money to finance this team, and he's under a lot of stress.
He says he's a pretty good general practitioner, too.
Very good.
So here's Nelson Piquet, back to turn 1, little negative camber in that corner. Now here with Prost, the second place car, out of turn 2. Piquet, winner of 11 races this year. We have a car slowing. One of the Ferraris in trouble. Right. Just before the chicane, trying to get limp back into the pits.
I think it's Alvaretto, but I'm not absolutely sure. Piquet and Prost, not only is Prost pulling up on Piquet, but I think they're both pulling away from Nigel Mansell.
Remember, Piquet driving with a badly blistered foot, so savagely burned in Canada a week ago that he was climbed out of his car and collapsed on the ground. They had the doctors administer him until 10:30, 11, and we have 2 cars out down there. You see
That looks like one of
the Ferrari has gone back to the pits. He's getting back underway. That's the Acela car, Cinzani's car.
And that one is one of the Ligiers.
Hainaut or his teammate?
Petresi.
It's
one of those two. It's hard to tell. Can't see the number.
Piquet. They have a new game called Hide the Numbers in Formula One this year. Piquet's car is readily identifiable. Some of them have them up on the wings, some on the side pods, some just about underneath.
Of course, when you're familiar enough, you can recognize the helmets, but of course, one of the reasons for no numbers is because of the device that Chris was showing us earlier on, their own electronic device. They don't need the numbers for timing anymore.
Here's Chris Economaki.
Down here with Rene. Excuse me for one moment. Rene Arnoux is talking to Marco Piccinini, the Ferrari team manager, about the incident that took him out of the race. His car has been put on. You have one moment? I guess I can understand him being a little bit upset. Two drivers on the Ferrari team, and his car, as you can see it over here, is being pushed away with the work on wheels on it. The nose piece missing. I guess his day is done. Back to you, Ken.
Arnoux's Ferrari is the one which has retired. Up and down season for Arnoux this year. Bad break for Rene Arnoux, struggling with that Ferrari team and qualified well back on the grid after Alvarado had done well.
Yes, Rene Arnoux is under extreme pressure these days. He fell out badly with his team, his French team, the Renault team, moved to Ferrari, was the hero for a year. They've taken Alvaretto on, who appears to be consistently quicker than Arnoux, who obviously is going to be under a lot of pressure, especially from the Italian press, who are particularly hard on drivers to Ferrari.
The only American, Eddie Cheever, now rides in the 6th position with the only V8 turbo-powered car here, the Alfa Romeo. Uses up a lot of fuel, and they have a limit of 58 gallons of fuel on board these cars. In many races, they've been falling out of events here before the finish because they just ran out of fuel. Happened to the Renaults a few times.
Well, it is a problem, and they do have to be very careful with that boost knob that Chris showed us on the McLaren earlier on. You know that giving it too much boost, that means too much fuel, and you could run short. Some of these cars actually have fuel gauges in them, believe it or not. It's a gauge that tells you how much fuel you're using, and you have to run to that gauge now, so it's another thing to look at.
4 laps have been completed. 4 laps complete. The defending world champion Nelson Piquet first in our live CBS coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix. There you see him right to the wall. Remarkable picture. future. Prost in the second spot, and then in third is Mansell.
And Derek Warwick has got past Alvaretto. And Eddie Cheever's coming up hard on Alvaretto now. So Derek Warwick. There's a good shot from the blimp as we see turns 1 and 2. You can see it's just a long, constant radius turn. Now we get to the tight bit. You see the railway lines here where they go over the big bump.
Lauda is 7th, De Angelis is 8th, Tambe is 9th, Ayrton Senna runs in 10th, Brundle is 11th, Chiributson is in 12th, Beloff is 13th, Chicolo 14th. Some of the just magnificent crowd out here, a record breaker today. Here they are by Detroit University. PK the leader, now building up an advantage again. For a while it seemed to be going in favor of Prost. Again, PK has it. Some said he would only run a few laps and perhaps have to come in. His foot is so badly burned.
Prost is dropping back now badly into the clutches of Nigel Mansell.
Nigel Mansell still looking for his first Grand Prix victory in car number 12, the Lotus.
Well, this year, not only is a battle of car manufacturers and engine manufacturers, more and more of the big heavyweights are getting in there. BMW, Renault, Fiat, Honda. But also, of course, there's a constant tyre war in Formula 1. And the front two cars are both fitted with the French Michelin tyres. And Nigel's car, the Lotus, using Goodyear this year. All of them now using radial tyres. This is the first year that Goodyear have developed a true radial tyre for Formula 1. And the radial tyres will be seen soon in the American kart racing. And all these cars out here now have got radial tyres.
Nelson Piquet, winner of 11 Formula 1 World Championship races, continues to stay out in front where he began this Detroit Grand Prix. More in a moment. CBS live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix with now 6 laps complete. Nelson Piquet of Brazil is leading in the Brabham BMW car. Alain Prost, currently number 1 in the world, rides second. Nigel Mansell is in third and closing. Coming to fourth is Derek Warwick, and fifth is Michele Alvaretto, with sixth the American Eddie Cheever. Cheever is in sixth. Niki Lauda is seventh. De Angelis eighth. Tambe ninth. Ayrton Senna is in 10th. David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire, Barry Gill, and Chris Economaki in the pits, and Barry Gill has this report.
One of the brand new Frenchmen, Francois, I know, one of the Ligier stars, out of the race. Francois, what happened?
Well, big problem in the slow corner. I have a Corrado Fabi when Drake touched me, and I usually stop. And there is a Formula 1, it's not possible to start again. And in the first start, I have a big problem because a rear wheel touched my car and break a small part of the front wheel, and necessary to change a big problem. It's not a good race for me, but when I come back, I hope it's a good race at first.
A very phlegmatic Francois, I know. Over to you, Chris Economaki.
Well, in the Indianapolis 500, pit stops are part and parcel of the race, and they are in most major American races. Today's race, to the best of our knowledge, there are no planned pit stops, but we're standing in the pit of Nelson Piquet, the race leader, and all of these men are standing ready to service him if he has to stop. A red line guides the car, plug wrenches are in place, change tires if necessary, and they'll stay here waiting on the qui-vive for the entire run of the Detroit Grand Prix 3. Back to you, Ken.
There you see Nelson Piquet staying out in front. There's a battle further back, and that is Ayrton Senna running in currently the 10th position. Directly behind Senna is the Thierry Boutsen car, 11th. And then you see Stefan Beloff's car. Good battle for 10th position. And Martin Brundle is in there in 13th.
Obviously watching my man Boutsen, who is in fact my co-driver at the European Skull Band at the Porsche 956 of John Fitzpatrick Racing. Thierry and I are doing a full season together. We're racing, in fact, in 2 weeks' time in Germany. There we see Nelson PIQUET with his German BMW engine. Car number 1, the world champion, leading this race at the moment. Pulling away slightly from his pursuers.
More than 6 seconds.
Nigel Mansell.
More than 6 seconds now between first and second. Prost was the only one of the front runners to come through the first lap incident unscathed. Doesn't look like he pulled out any advantage over that. Let's take a look at attrition now as we work through the 9th lap. Mark Schur was retired in that crash right at the beginning on the 12th start. Manfred Winkelhock is falling by the wayside. The Ram Heart of Dr. Jonathan Palmer, the Ferrari of Arnoux, now Renault has retired. retired in one of the Ligier cars.
There you see that terrific bump on the straight as Nelson really pours it on, reaches about 160 miles an hour, and never such short straight.
And remember, these cars weigh 1,188 pounds, and that bump really has to unsettle one
Tremendously. And also at the same time, it's accelerating with about one force of gravity. And so when you hit bumps, it really magnifies them badly. Now he's got a very substantial lead there.
Now there you see the struggle for second place. PK coming by, and there's the battle for second position. Prost is there, Nigel Mansell attacking in the black Lotus.
Mansell really closing up there, but the problem with this Detroit circuit is there's very, very few places to pass. And setting people up is easier said than done because you have to make your best corner one of their worst, and you also have to be in the right place at the right time.
Mansell makes the move. Nigel Mansell takes over in second place. Prost back to second. Something must be amiss on the tag Porsche-powered McLaren car, which was right up in the front row and has won 3 races this year. Meanwhile, you're back with the leader again. Nelson PIQUET, the 2-time world champion, continues to draw away in the 3rd annual Detroit Grand Prix. Back with the leader, Nelson PIQUET, and CBS live coverage of the 3rd annual Detroit Grand Prix, race number 8 for the World Championship. There you see the second place car, Nigel Mansell. Low angle shot coming through this very tricky chicane. Alain Prost is in 3rd, Warwick is in 4th, Eddie Cheever right there in 5th. See the heat rising. Here is Elio De Angelis coming by next. Back with PIQUET. Nigel Mansell is the man on the move. He has moved up to the 2nd spot. He was the fastest qualifier on Friday. But then PIQUET pulled out all the stops in the final hour and went better than almost 5 seconds better than the old record of Arnoux from a year ago. Here he is, Nelson PIQUET, driving hurt, driving magnificently, so fluid, so easy on any equipment.
Well, Nigel Mansell's closing the gap on Nelson PIQUET. In the last lap, he took off 2 seconds. So he's really making ground on our current leader. There we see them going down Larnham Street.
3 and 3/10 seconds. Now the interval between the first place car, the Brabham BMW, and the Lotus Renault powered car that you see here, number 12 in 2nd place. The Detroit Grand Prix, one of 2 World Championship races on CBS this summer. Next, Dallas, Sunday, July the 8th.
There we see them in front of the Cobo Hall, and Nigel Mansell is really eating into the lead of Nelson PIQUET as they sweep under the bridge down to the sharpest corner here, turning onto the Atwater Tunnel, down to 1st gear, accelerating right up through the gearbox, 5 or even 6 speed as they go under that tunnel.
Mansell, who broke his neck back in 1977, told he wouldn't race again. Here he is, back to 2nd place, still looking for win number 1. The man up in front, twice the world champion with 11 wins. Here they are. It's very difficult chicane, and if you tag that wall there, you are serious hurt.
Mansell was consistently quickest through the untimed section and the time section on Friday and Saturday until he came to the one that counted. And here we see a fabulous size for 4th spot. That's Derek Warwick, Michel Alboreto, and Eddie Cheever running up well there in the Benetton alfaromeo.
A very rough, a very bumpy course, as we mentioned earlier. And if one is not as precise as a surgeon here, one may face one. Now there is Ayrton Senna, who is running back in the 10th position, and Knudsen is running right behind him.
That's 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th right there. A very, very close race. There's 2 non-turbocharged cars in that group.
Senna, Knudsen, then comes Belloff in 12th, and Martin Rundle next in 13th in that collection.
There we see them screaming up the hill there.
Just in front of them, you saw Niki Lauda and Patrick Tambay. Remember now that Lauda started 10th. He is up to 8th. Tambay, who started 15th, is now running 9th.
Now there's some serious racing. There goes Stefan Belloff getting inside Thierry Boutsen as they go over that intersection. And Boutsen now being really pushed by Martin Brundle in the other.
12 laps have been completed. 12 are complete. You are back with the leader, Nelson PIQUET. Here's that other battle, and that is the dandy. Moving up through goes one of the Williams cars, number 6, K.K. Rosberg.
K.K. Rosberg driving the Williams Honda. Honda, another manufacturer that's decided to put their money on the line and get in involved in the ultra-expensive Formula One technical program. And there we see the leaders. Nelson Piquet being hounded now very closely by Nigel Mansell.
Can you imagine going wide open, just slightly adrift through that chicane, a total of 63 times, and hit it precisely right every time?
Well, Piquet just puts his wheels just on that chamfered red and black curve, and if you just get it a couple of inches further up the curve than you meant, you're into that wall.
There you see that home run batting precision, which is so necessary here. And if an error ensues in that area, the consequence is far greater than a number on a scoreboard. There comes Senna.
There we see that track traveling for the midfield, which obviously doesn't seem to be very important to us. On the other hand, if they hang in there to the end, they can finish in the top 6. It's all World Championship points, which is tremendously important for future sponsorship and, of course, money.
Now, Senna has closed up considerably. He's closed on Patrick Tambay, and directly behind him is the Tiro. That is Boutsen in one of the Ken Tiro automobiles, powered the only one of the aspirated cars that are the Ford Cosworth car.
That's Jeff Beloff in the black Tiro there, and they're right on top of Senna, and as you say, they're winding in the World Renault.
Closing the gap on the lead, and look at Nigel Mansell pull up. They're averaging 81.744 miles per hour.
Oh, and Nigel Mansell just turned the fastest lap in the race so far, and he's right on Piquet's tail.
Nigel Mansell in his 51st Grand Prix performance, closing on the two-time world champion.
He made a beautiful pass on Alain Prost, as we saw before. After going through the Conquest Park, he slipped down the inside to the intersection at Beaubien, and he's driving a superb race this afternoon, and is really setting Piquet up for the kill now.
Fastest part of the course, over 160 miles an hour, and Mansell moves in. His best finish, he has been third 3 times. He has been third 4 times now. Once this year in France. Here he is within 4 car lengths of Nelson Piquet as they work the 14th lap.
Well, there's a tremendous amount at stake here. This telecast is going to be seen by about 300 million people around the world with their various commentators, and we've got 2 giants out the front. We've got the Michelin Tire Company, we've got Goodyear Tire Company, we have a Renault engine and the might behind it, and of course the German BMW engine out there.
Here's Chris Economaki.
Okay, Derek WARWICK just looking for a pit stop. Rather long by Formula One standards on our stopwatch. The right front wheel man was way off. It should have been well under 10 seconds, and that's going to cost him if he goes back in the race. Problems with the tire.
Eddie Cheever has passed Michele Alboreto for 5th. Cheever is now into 5th. Alboreto is in the last point-scoring position. 1 point for 6, 9 points for win, 6 points for second, then 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 point for last collectible point in a Grand Prix race. There is the battle for first. Still in front, Nelson Piquet, who must be grimacing here and feeling the pressure from Nigel Mansell with his badly burned foot.
There we see that incredible back to 10th place, and Stefan Beloff has dropped from about 9th back to about 12th or 13th at the moment in that shuffle, and they must have had a big shuffle on that lap.
Lauda, you see, in the red and white car is 7th. Tambay is 8th. Thierry Boutsen is up to 9th.
If you could just get to the head of that lineup, it will make
That's Lauda.
It's your position.
I believe that's Lauda, the 2-time world. Back with the leaders again as Mansell stays there, hovering in 2nd place, shadowing Nelson Piquet down the fastest part of the course into turn 1, exit number 2. Now clutching for the gears and coming up to 130, 140 miles per hour. What a great Formula One race after a near tragic start, which delayed us by some 40 minutes before we were ready to get this going another time.
Now these 2 are going to have to be deciding now how they're going to conserve their fuel, maybe.
There you see Alboreto. He is being shown 5th.
Eddie Stevens pulled well away from Alboreto.
Indeed he has. Cheever is doing a magnificent job. The 4th place runner right in front of Alboreto is just sitting looking over his shoulder. There's Eddie Cheever just in front of him.
That's Eddie Stevens making
Alboreto
extremely good ground now on Alain Prost.
Could have a slow car, and that must be the teammate. That is Patrese. Looks like the right front is screwed up on that car.
I don't think it's a flat tire. It's something obviously horribly bent because it's not touching the floor. He must have hit something. That's Ricardo Patrese. Yeah, the right front suspension.
The right rear tire is
the right rear tire is flat. The wheels
and brings the left front tire up like a hurt paw. Ricardo Patrese in trouble with one of the Alfa Romeo cars, V8 turbo.
Those cars are extremely powerful. Now, this is tricky under the bridge there. He's going into the gloom. Anybody coming up behind him, he's going to be difficult to see in there. So he's going to keep right into the right.
Dangerous situation here. And the leaders get through.
Now he's going to be just around the corner and out of everybody's sight. Mansell really giving Piquet a hard time. Not that Piquet's the sort of guy that's going to succumb to pressure very easily as they sweep to that chicane again. Mansell right on him now. Maybe turn the boost up a little bit down the straight to try and nail him in the end on braking.
Leaders in lockstep into turn number 1. 15 laps complete.
Now they've got to have a race to conserve tyres and try and conserve fuel. Brakes are no problem on Formula One cars, generally speaking, although around here they get a very much of a pacing, and of course it is a pretty warm day. One of the problems with the Brabham this year, the Brabham BMW, has had a problem with the engine overheating, but I think the Barry Gill's got something for us down the pits. Barry?
Here's a very unhappy Ricardo Patrese, winner of the South African Grand Prix last year. Pit stop, already taken 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 11 seconds. He's away 13 seconds, but of course he's lost a tremendous amount of time, mainly because of such a slow lap coming in. Back to you, Ken.
Patrese, winner of 2 Formula One World Championship races, back underway, but he will not be in the counting on this one. Here is the story. Up in front, Piquet first, from Brazil, Nigel Mansell of Great Britain in second. Moving back down toward Cobo Hall onto Jefferson Avenue there. It's here, and you're right in the arena, about row 12. Cheever is just attacking. They were reporting Eddie Cheever everywhere around the course from our 14 spotters, doing a magnificent job, but one cannot leave this battle for the lead as Mansell stays right there. And for the moment, Mansell seems slow. Mansell off the pace for just a moment as they came to the Atwater Street Bridge, where he fell back. One of the Renaults spinning.
I love that Patrick Tambay to me. One of them. What number is that? Tried to get back on the road until he drove under somebody else. There's Nelson Piquet.
Leader came under Fabi.
Now got a very handy lead over Nigel Mansell. It must have either had a momentary problem or got a continuing problem.
Mansell seems to be in trouble and trying to win it back-to-back, winning in Montreal a week ago. Now here is Mansell. You saw him going to the bridge and the car just backed up on him.
Well, he seems to be going all right now. I don't see any flat tires. I don't know.
Eddie Cheever is now third.
Maybe.
Perhaps we can find something here. Oop, here's a replay coming in, and that looks like the 16 car. Would that be Warwick?
And there goes the Senna past Patrick Tambay. This was that very tight race for 8th, 9th, and 10th place. And Tambay selects gear, drives off, and in fact drove right under somebody else.
Very slippery course they're reporting. So Piquet gets the advantage. Here is the second place car. Mansell. Now back with Piquet. Mansell lost 6 seconds in one lap, David.
He must have had a bit of a spin going under that, down this section right here, past the Cobo Hall. It is a pretty tricky spot, and he must have had a momentary spin or something, half spin.
See the fuel building up in those turbochargers and giving us those explosions and blasts there.
You can see every time he changes gears. There's another skull bandit. That's Philippe Alliot, the Frenchman who we saw being interviewed on the finish line, start finish line. In fact, our lead is about to come up and lap him.
Here they are, back with the chicane. Nelson Piquet in first. Mansell in second. Eddie Cheever has come to third. 17 laps complete. 17 down. And Piquet in a backup car continues to lead. Live coverage of the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix will continue after these messages. You are sharing this view with viewers from 35 nations. This Detroit Grand Prix. Third spot, Eddie Cheever in the green car. Behind him, Michele Alboreto in the red Ferrari, and Ilio De Angelis has come to fifth. Third, fourth, fifth.
An Italian's dream come true. An American domiciled in Italy driving an Alfa Romeo engine car, leading a red Ferrari driven by an Italian and another Italian in just behind them. What a day for the old Italians.
Nicky Lauda now into the 6th position. Lauda is up to 6th. Eddie Cheever, who had a brilliant second place here, one of his best runs, now maintaining the 3rd position. Alvarado, who won here a year ago for Team Tyrrell in the red Ferrari, running 4th. And there you see Ilio De Angelis in the black Lotus, 5th position as they move to Cobo Hall. Down they go on Jefferson Avenue. Back with Nelson PIQUET another time, your leader. As we have pointed out before, PIQUET burned the country off on his feet. And this morning there was conjecture, 1, that he might not start, 2, that he might run only a few laps and then come in, or 3, grit it out. And that's just what he's doing as he tries to get back in the point battle.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the program, this race is incredibly hard on one's feet because they're just jumping around in there like no one's business with approximately 1,300 brake applications alone during this race.
Nigel Mansell continues to lose a second a lap, and as he falls back, Eddie Cheever may be up for another second-place finish. Eddie Cheever of the United States drove for Team Renault. Last we saw him here. And there is Eddie Cheever drawing away from Michele Alboreto, last year's winner. Cheever, U.S. nationality, fluent in Italian, spent much of his life there, now lives in Monte Carlo, keeping this only V8 turbo car right in the thick of it.
Well, they sound tremendously now for engine cars. Unfortunately, they do have a bit of a thirst for fuel, and he's another driver who may have to turn the wick down a bit in this race to make sure he finishes.
How do you feel about World Championship being turned into an economy run? To me, it seems rather silly.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree with it if it does turn into an economy run. I'm looking at it right at the moment. It doesn't look too much of an economy run to me, but of course it's terribly tragic if one does run out of fuel near the end.
It's happened to Ferrari. Most of these turbo cars are right on the edge all the time, and they can't go as fast as they want because they have to consider the fact there's no more fuel if they run out.
Well, I suppose they have to try and limit the horsepower in some way, and of course giving them the fuel limit is one way of doing it.
Here's Chris Economaki.
Peter War of the Lotus crew assembled here. Peter War of the Lotus crew assembled here at Pit Road are, you know, throbbing with excitement. Their car is second and closing in on the lead. It's been a long time since Lotus has won one, and they're hoping for a big result in the Detroit Grand Prix 3 today. You can see the look on their faces here each time, waiting for their man to come around to see whether he moved in on the leader or not. Back to you, Ken.
Lotus team looking to find victory today. They have 72 victories to their credit. Their last victory came in 1982 in Austria.
Well, Eddie Cheever picked up a couple of seconds on that lap on the leader, on this man, Nelson PIQUET. And there we see a spin down and Bİlgi. So it must be Andrea De Cesare. Not in his spin, but on his restart, he tagged the wall with his left rear wheel, which you can see is now hopelessly bent.
Andrea, the man they call Andrea De Cesare, had another
if
incident
you have a replay of that spin, you'll see exactly why, because I think he did most of the damage to that car after the spin. When he restarts, he tagged the wall.
Eyes will be snapping some on that one. Here's Andrea trying to get the car back. DJ coming in.
That's De Senna. That's Ayrton De Senna driving the Tolman out of his race. Now, that is very unfortunate.
Slipping away.
He was going extremely well. He's obviously hurt his leg.
Second place finisher at Monaco, and is closing better than a second, sometimes 2 seconds a lap on Prost when they dropped the flag and concluded that event about 31 laps.
I'm pretty sure that was Senna. It looked like him with his car. So he'll be very disappointed, but yes, that's Ayrton De Senna, last year's British Formula 3 champion, just about to get over the wall. Obviously hurt his right leg, having his helmet taken off for him.
24 years old, from Brazil, was the South American go-kart champion in 1977, won the South American title, went to Europe, raced go-karts in Italy, then moved on, and many say he is the next power of South America and of the world.
Many people say that he is absolutely, definitely going to be world champion within 2 or 3 years at most. He is incredibly quick.
Incredibly dedicated.
And has a tremendously wise head on young shoulders. He has absolutely everything that is required to be world champion.
You're back with PIQUET,
which is pretty sickening, really. I mean, I don't mind a lad being a reasonable driver, but that's ridiculous.
Is that the over 40 view?
That's the over 40 view, exactly. Yeah.
Again with Piquet. Last year won the title on reliability. Nelson Piquet in front for Bernie Ecclestone. Brabham BMW team. He had 3 wins last year, 3 second places, 2 thirds, 2 fourths in the 15-race series. And here he is. What may be his toughest performance that he's ever been in. And Eddie Cheever gaining ground along with Michele Alboreto on Nigel Mansell. We will have a battle for second place.
Well, Eddie Cheever's winding him in. That Alfa Romeo's going very well. As I say, it's Achilles' heel. Is it uses your fuel? It does use a lot of fuel.
Mansell has
turn it down. You'll be able to.
Mansell has gone from 8 seconds in arrears to just 5. So he's struggling. He's trying to keep this thing gathered up. There's the leader. It is Piquet.
I mean, I hate to say it at this stage, but Piquet does drive impeccable races. And as I say that, he'll no doubt run into the guardrail.
But this is fairly close to an engine that one might buy. That is a BMW motor, and it's closely related to the 320 BMW, right? Same crank?
It is absolutely the same block and crankshaft. It is a production piece.
Here's Chris.
I'm with Eddie Cheever. It's a short day, Eddie. Mechanical problems, obviously, huh?
Only race I've had ever since I began that I could have won. And I lost all my boost pressure after 10 laps, and I thought I could keep going, and something went wrong with the boost.
What kind of a track is it, and what's the day like other than that?
It's a track where you can't make any mistakes, and I was doing a good race. I was going strong. I had a lot in hand. I was sure I was going to win it.
How long does it take you, Eddie, to get over something like this?
What?
How long does it take you to get over a day like this?
Till the next time you have a chance of winning.
Okay, Eddie Cheever, an obviously irate young man. Back to you, Ken.
Eddie Cheever in his 61st Formula One race. He thought he had a win going today, but for Piquet averaging 82.02 miles an hour, that hope still is very strong. That Skoll car for a moment left the course and is now back on once again.
Interesting to see Eddie Cheever, who's a bit of a health food nut, sucking a Coke there after the race.
Indeed he is.
He should be drinking
vegetarian for some time, has gone back to the
He should be drinking the Dennis Carlson Magic Mix, which is a drink I use, and it's absolutely fantastic.
What's in it?
I don't know. It's an electrolytic drink, he tells me. Whatever it does a lot of good.
Is that why you fell asleep at dinner last night at 9:15?
That's it.
Piquet. Around that double left. There is Niki Lauda. Here is Niki Lauda. He has fallen back. They're now showing him in the 12th position.
Niki Lauda just made a pit stop. I saw him coming out of the pits, and I think a number of these people are going to make pit stops for tires as this race progresses.
He has moved up to 4th in the all-time win list behind the Clarks, the Stewarts, the Fangios. We asked him if he still got the same thrill when he strapped into a race today as he did when he started 13 years ago.
Certainly not, because I'm today 35 years old. When I stepped into the march, I think it was 22 or 23. I think man changes all the time. And today, my view of everything is completely different when I was 22 or 23. So all my things I'm thinking today are different.
I will never forget 1976, that year when so many things went so well for him and then almost ended in total tragedy in Germany, and then the Japanese Grand Prix, which Andretti won, and he retired from because it was raining so hard, he said it just isn't worth it.
I think retiring from that race took almost more courage than coming back after that terrible accident, because if he had only just finished in that race in the top 6, he'd have won the World Championship, and he'd be a 3-time World Champion in it.
Courage can be described as Niki Lauda. Let's go to Christy Conemack.
Well, it's a glorious day here at Grand Prix Sunday. A glorious day for sailing on the Detroit River. As you can see, all those boats out there. But they can't see very much because the wall, the outside wall, is higher than the cars. And one wag said, "What are all those people watching?" And his friend said, "The noise. What else?" Back to you, Ken.
You recall at Monaco when the wall wasn't that high, the famous plunge? That will not happen in Detroit.
Mr. Hawkins into the pool. Chris Economaki, of course, is our resident language expert. Speaks to all these drivers in their own languages, or at least says goodbye in their language.
Orders wine in all the languages and says goodbye.
Yeah, he says Van Ordinaire incredibly well.
Nelson Piquet leads with now 24 laps complete in the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix. We'll be back with more live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix after this word from your local station. With you live at Detroit. David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire, Barry Gill, and Chris Economaki in the pits. We are working the 26th lap now as Nelson Piquet continues to lead, but the story is further back in this field. They're battling here for second place. Nigel Mansell in the second spot, and right behind him comes last year's winner, Michele Alboreto, in the red Ferrari in third. There is your leader, Nelson Piquet, going first. Now let's look at the battle for second. Some 15 seconds back. Mansell is there, followed by Alboreto, then De Angelis in the back of the picture in the second black Lotus car. Second.
Mansell must have run into some problem of some sort, because he slid right back off the pace. Fell back into the clutches of Alboreto in the Ferrari.
Leader. Back again to that battle for second position. De Angelis hanging tough today. Again, he is fourth. And Thierry Boutsen of Belgium is in fifth. And the sixth position is now Keke Rosberg of Finland for Team Williams.
My man Boutsen comes up through the field.
Your teammate.
My teammate. I hope he drives that well in a couple of weeks.
Nelson Piquet in front, trying to be the first man since 1959-60 to win the World Championship 2 years in a row. The last time it was done, Jack Brabham for Cooper. Now here's that battle for second place again.
Mansell seems to be able to hold his own with Alboreto, and that's the second Team Lotus car at the back there. That's Elio De Angelis. Mansell seems to be able to hold his own, as I say, quite well against the Ferrari, but he is losing ground on Nelson. There we hear the whistle of that BMW turbo engine as he comes up here. Through the chicane, flicks it through the chicane.
Here he is into the straightaway.
Tremendously smooth driver, Nelson Piquet.
And from the Goodyear blimp, the approach to turn one, around turn two. As you look at the standings, 27 of the 63 laps complete. Now let's show you, we're looking back to find second place, and there you have it. The interval back to the second and third, as well as fourth place cars. And the fourth place car fell back a bit.
Yeah, it did. And fourth place car is, in fact, and there's Mansell slowing down.
Mansell is slowing down. Well, the Lotuses both fell out of another race earlier this year at the same time. Now here comes De Angelis. Something is amiss on Nigel Mansell. Falling off the pace, and De Angelis is up to third. We have another car coming.
Oh, I think that's my teammate. That's silly boy. What's he doing? I can't see from that far away, but it looks a bit like it.
Leader Piquet. Nigel Mansell. We have that in second place. His car in trouble.
So Alboreto in the Ferrari is now second. One slip by this man, Nelson Piquet, could give Alboreto his second and Ferrari's second win of the year.
And his fourth Grand Prix victory, and of course Alboreto won here a year ago. Apparently he takes to this track.
It is actually a thrilling track to drive around. There's a lot of complaints from some of the drivers about the bumps and the sharp turns, but really, if you get into the swing of this place, it's a very, very exciting course to drive on.
Alboreto started today in fourth position. Now finds himself second. The man that started on the pole remains on the point. Number one.
A nasty puff of black smoke out of Nelson's car when he backed off of the chicane there. That doesn't look too promising.
The old turbo's packing it in here. Doesn't sound so here. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, while you're talking about Nigel Mansell, the pit have gone and got a big signboard saying brake. It does look as if Nigel could have a problem, and that problem could be braking. Back to you, Ken.
Piquet first, Mansell second, brother Alboreto now second, and here is Mansell's car coming in. He had run second for the past several laps. Here is the leader. Mansell is trying to work his way back.
That's the battle for fifth and sixth. That's Martin Brundle and Stefan Beloff, his teammate in the Tyrrells, and Keke Rosberg
Right in front of him in the Honda. Keke Rosberg there in the white-yellow car.
There's Brundle right behind him.
He's actually, Rosberg is now fifth. The problem Mansell is having, he's picked up a spot. Rosberg fifth, Brundle sixth, Beloff seventh.
They're having a good race. Unfortunately, in that race should be Thierry Boutsen, who we just saw go down an escape road. Of course, he may have had a mechanical problem. One of the things with these cars, if you do make a bit of a boo-boo and you spin it, or in any way they stall the engine, you can't start the wretched thing out anymore because they're started with compressed air. And I personally think that's a bad thing. I think they should have a battery and an onboard starter because it seems a shame to be out of a race just because you stalled the engine.
Well, several races this year have had 8 or 9 car finishes, but attrition has not been as much a major story here today.
Mansell's in the pit.
Here's Chris Economaki. Nigel Mansell's coasting in very slowly. He's unleashed his seatbelt, which tells us he feels the car is finished on the day. We'll try and get a word with him. They're all looking at the back end there, and no one's talking to the driver. So apparently they're fully aware of what the problem is. Boy, there's a lot of men in the pit here. It's so unlike Indianapolis car, and they're starting to push the car away, so it's obviously diagnosed as a fatal ailment, whatever that may be. And as you can see, Mansell here is being attended to by his pitman. We'll try and get a word with him when he's ready. Perhaps we can seal the conversation here. Now, that's the windshock comes off, and you can just see the fatigue on the edge on his face there, soaking wet. Okay, Nigel? Nigel, we know you're exhausted. Do you have just a moment here for our television? You drove a great race. What was the reason you're out?
I lost second gear about 15 laps into the race. So I was changing from first to third all the time. And I could just hold second place with that from the Ferrari. But then third went as well. And I think the crown wheel and pinion's gone completely because I lost all gears. And that's why I was losing the back end a bit, because I was trying to change down to fourth to third and then to first. And then when I lost third, I tried to fourth to first, and then first to fourth, and of course the engine just won't pull it, and of course it just roots the gearbox.
Did you have dreams of winning, Nigel?
I really believe that one was mine, because everything was working so well, and I just couldn't believe it, because I was taking care of everything, and I was catching without pushing too hard, and then that happened. So it will come.
How physical has the day been?
Well, now I've stopped. I'm just very upset, really.
Thanks very much. Now Barry Gill.
While you were talking to a very disappointed Nigel Mansell, an equally disappointed Thierry Boutsen, who was lying fifth. He looked as if he could get his best ever result. Thierry, what happened?
Well, the car was going extremely well for the first time this year. I was very happy about the car. And a turbo broke just like that in one time. No sign of it. It just blew in one go.
Thierry, you're the best Belgian driver we've had since Jackie Hitch. You must have thought you were going to be in the points today.
Well, I was thinking I was driving very carefully today to finish in the points, because the car was going extremely well, as I said. And suddenly the turbo blew, and nothing you can do about that.
Thierry, we're very sorry about that. We have another very brilliant young driver here, Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna, who we saw limping around the track. Ayrton will put the earphones on. Could you tell us exactly what happened?
Well, I got a problem with the front tires, so they take them back, had a blister, and then eventually I lost a wheel down the straight. I lost the rear right wheel, and I'm flat out in fifth gear, so it wasn't a good emotion. Huh?
You looked as if you were limping when you got out of the car.
Yeah, I didn't have blood in my leg, so I couldn't feel my leg. So when I touched the ground, it was like I didn't have any leg on the right. But
you mean it was cramped?
Yeah, I couldn't feel my leg. You know, that was a problem.
But you haven't lost your appetite for racing.
No, I was trying hard. I think we could be in the points today. It was taking easy, you know, the car. But essentially I lost a wheel, you know, something that you never expect.
Ayrton, you're one of very many disappointed drivers. I know there's a long time ahead of you to do better. Thank you for talking to us. Back to you, Ken.
The best lap of the race has been turned by Derek Warwick for the Renault team. The British driver had a lap at 1 minute 46 and 461 thousandths of a second. Now we're back further in the field, watching the Renault car, I believe, here.
Well, that Williams Honda, Rosberg, being hotly pursued by two young lions, both of them rookies, Stefan Belloff and Martin Brundle, driving the non-turbo, the only two non-turbo cars in this race, the Tyrrell Cosworth.
Rosberg has come to 4th position now with 30 laps complete. Pekka Rosberg, the 1982 world champion from Finland, who you see there. Right behind him comes Martin Brundle in one of the Tyrrell cars, the Ford Cosworth car.
I thought one interesting thing when Chris was talking to those two drivers, Barry was talking to those two drivers, was I don't know whether you noticed that Thierry Boutsen, after that nearly an hour of driving, his hair wasn't even out of place, not a drop of sweat on his brow, and Ayrton Senna sort of looked normal. I mean, he had sweat on his brow. I always feel very bad when I drive with Thierry because I look like a wet dishcloth when I get out of the car, and he jumps out just like he hasn't been out.
Nigel Mansell looked like he'd been put through the ringer. I'm not supposed to be biased, but one would hope he would have a great race down at Dallas. Nigel Mansell had such a great race here. More from Dallas, or rather more from Detroit in a moment. Averaging 82.402 miles per hour, some 2.5 miles quicker than before.
Wheel off the car right in front of the pit here. Stefan Beloff lost the wheel right in front of the pit.
There you see him coming to rest.
Ooh, not a good place. Right at the fastest part of the track.
And his teammate, Martin Brundle, was just in the pits. Brundle had been shown in 5th position. Up against the wall, main straightaway. Just, you can see the start finish line there in the bottom of your picture. Piquet, averaging 82.402 miles per hour, continues to lead. Almost 2.5 miles faster than the course previous record, which goes to our new last year. 20-turn, 2.5-mile road course. Stefan Beloff has now retired from the event. We're just about to take a look at attrition, and we have to add a name. The West German rookie to Formula One racing, Stefan Beloff. There's the story there.
Right there with a left donut lying on the floor.
He's walking right in front of us now and running across the track. There's Stefan Beloff over the wall.
An extremely aggressive, fast driver. Stefan set the world on its heels last year, driving the Porsche 956 in the European long-distance races by setting some absolutely paralyzing times in a big, what compared to these, a big, heavy, fast car.
Here is the leader, Piquet. Niki Lauda has pitted car number 8 and has come back on again, or may still be in the pits here. Lauda's number 8 from Team McLaren, the tag Porsche-powered car.
Not a good day for them, but Derek Warwick is doing a fantastic job of pulling back through the field, having dropped to 15th after a spin, and he's now streaming up through the field, and it's the fastest car out there by a long way.
Let's see if we can see where the Beloff problem was created here. Here he is at the chicane.
Uh-oh. He's using a tag the chicane, Pat.
And it looks like he was in contact in the chicane. Comes down just by our announce position. Let's see if we can see it here.
Again. Oh, yeah, the car's understeering. He's just a bit wide. Boy, I bet he's sucking his breath there. And God, he was lucky there. Another couple of inches, and it would have been the front wheel. And
let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, David, listening to your description of the accident is the man who's just had it, Stefan Beloff. Stefan, what exactly happened? I go into the chicane in front of the pit. The car turns, by the turn in, a lot of understeer. And when I acceleration, the car starts to oversteer, and then I hit with the left rear of the barrier, and the wheel comes off. You must have been very disappointed. Yeah, sure, I was in behind Martin. That problem with the engine, the pickup was very bad. The engine stopped 5-6 times, and but I had no problem to get around the track, and maybe it was a mistake of me. But it looks as if Martin could finish in the points for the Ford engine. Yeah, sure, I can also, when you can finish the race, that's the problem. But I can also finish in the points. But okay, I make a mistake and the race is gone. A very honest driver. Jonathan, you're equally known for your honesty. What happened to you, Jonathan Palmer?
Well, I was about the 3rd or 4th lap, I can't remember which it was. And coming out onto the back sections of the track, and the car suddenly slewed one way and another way at about 130 miles an hour, and a tyre had exploded.
Not a very nice moment, Jonathan.
No, certainly not. It was about to take my teammate, Alio, and I was looking forward to an opportunity about finishing the points. But sadly, it's not to be this time.
Ken, one of the nice things about this season is we have some young men who aren't afraid to tell us exactly what happened. Back to you.
34 laps, 85 miles have been completed of the 63-lap distance. As you see the leader, Nelson PIQUET, with now an 18-second advantage over Michele Alboreto in the second position, and Derek WARWICK has come to the third position. 9 cars still on the lead lap. Leader PIQUET. Here's Chris Economec.
Okay, I'm in the grandstands here behind the pits with some of the people who really love their racing. 4 guys, you're getting 5 of them getting a tan. Where are you guys from? Amherstburg. And what's the official beverage here?
What's the official beverage?
What are you guys drinking? True. And what have you been eating?
Oh, Italian sausage, beef, and everything.
Okay, there you see. That's what they're doing in the grandstands here. Back to you, Ken.
More problem on the course. Car number 21 looks like it has tagged the wall.
That is Philip Alliot in the second Skull Bandit. Now, that's a shame because he'd just been lapped by Nelson PIQUET. We saw him being lapped, but he's out of this race now.
Rookie driver Alliot walking away from his car.
Philip Alliot last year drove with
Andretti
in Le Mans.
Finished third. It's Marion Michael and Alliot.
And at that time, no one had ever heard of him. But he's a pretty good young driver and went quite quickly this weekend because that's not one of the great cars in this race. It's the Ram McDonald Hart engine car.
After the delayed start, 1 hour, 3 minutes, 38 seconds into the race, 35 laps complete. Nelson PIQUET stays in front by 18 seconds over the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, the young man who won it a year ago. Have a dickens of a time getting wrecked cars off this course. That is a problem. There's the leader getting by.
It is a very big problem, and of course, you can't just leave it there, and that happens to be in a particularly bad spot just around that corner, all of which here are totally blind, especially these Formula 1 cars in the Corvette Trans Am car. At least you can see over some of these walls. These guys are like sitting on the floor. You can't see anything.
Still PIQUET holding on to his lead. Still hurting from burns he sustained on his feet last week in the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal.
The only pressure on Nelson PIQUET this afternoon looks like it's going to come from Derek WARWICK, who's now pressing Alboreto for second spot. And if he can dispose of Alboreto, here's Alboreto.
And WARWICK has come from 17th to 3rd. And Derek WARWICK in the Renault, 17th to 3rd.
And he's catching up to Alboreto. We don't see him yet, but he's right there. And there's still another 20-odd laps to go.
Now reporting 36 laps complete. 36 laps down.
Only 19 to go then.
There's the leader again. PIQUET
going through that turn 1 and 2. It must be a great corner in these. It was enjoyable in the Trans Am car, but these cars would have so much stick. You can really lean on the power coming through that corner and get a lot of acceleration.
Well, after all the conjecture this morning, whether he might run no laps or perhaps 4 laps, they might just throw some soft tires on and let him go out and do some leading and bring him in. PIQUET is just doing a magnificent job. It could give him his 12th win, tie him with Prost as far as overall career wins are concerned, and get him back into this thing. He fought his way back before.
Well, of course, what is doubly important for Nelson now is that his immediate competitor, who is Prost, is out of the race. So if he can get major points this, 9 points, that'll give him 18. Boy, that pulls him up with a major step up on Alan Prost, who already has something like 35.5 points because of the half points at Monte Carlo.
PIQUET picking his way around the carnage here as he continues on his way to a home victory in the Detroit Grand Prix, the track that has never treated him well. Didn't allow him to qualify the first year. Last year gave him a taste of glory for a few moments, then a tire puncture, complained about the rough track. No complaints today in this third one.
One simply couldn't look at him now and say this man's going to win this race, because racing is a very, very fickle game. And until he sees that second flag drop, he hasn't won.
Oh, here he is. 2-time world champion. And he would really have some going to do. After Dallas, they're headed back into Europe, and it'll be in Great Britain the next event. But coming up, July 8th, let me point out again, on CBS, we'll have our full flag-to-flag coverage on Sunday, July 8th, of Formula 1 competition from a brand-new course which circulates around the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. That'll be fun.
It ought to be fun. but it's going to be incredibly hot for these guys. Now, I'm just wondering if they're ready for the heat of Dallas and July weekend.
How do you think it would compare with Rio? Rio's always warm. It's at a low altitude as compared to Sao Paulo when they used to run. I would think they might be familiar with it. And it's 11 o'clock in the morning start when we get to Texas.
Well, it might be comparable to Rio. I think Rio is about the hottest place that they go to, but I still don't think they're really ready for Dallas because it does get hot and humid.
Here's Barry Gill.
Well, the car you're looking at is parked somewhat unsightly by the side of the track. And those of you who know NASCAR racing will be surprised to see this obstacle just sitting there. But of course, in a street circuit like Detroit or Monte Carlo, there's very little you can do about it. That car's been pushed as far in as possible. The other drivers have got to race around it. Now, in Monaco, they have giant cranes that just hook up the car and lift it over, and they do have some of those here. But of course, when you're by the waterside, unless you've got frogmen who can swim out and lift it bodily, you haven't got much of a chance. So just another hazard for people in a street circuit, which today, Ken, seems to have taken an enormous toll. We've had 3 drivers talking about wheels coming off. Exactly how many drivers are left in this race, Ken?
We're going to check attrition in just a moment. Derek Warwick may have slipped back a bit. He was up to the 3rd position. And now the latest report is that Warwick has come back a couple of notches to 5th. Derek Warwick, who is still looking for his first win. We first saw him back in 1981 in competition driving for Tolman, now with Team Renault. A British driver driving for the French, David. How about that?
I know, it's very impressive.
And he's fallen back a bit.
He has garlic sandwiches now. And Nicky Lauda's done it. Now, that's unusual for Nicky Lauda, but he's managed to do it without stalling it. Give it some stick, but not too much. Well, he did a very good 3-point turn there. Sorry, that's not Nicky Lauda. That's Alan Prost, number 7. Our current World Championship leader. Oh, in fact, now lying in 7th spot, so if he picked up one more spot, he would have gone to pick up a point. However, he must have a handling problem because he was running very strongly at the beginning of this race. And who's now dropped right off. There's Teo FABI, last year's pole sitter at Indianapolis, who's trying to divide his chores this year between Formula 1 and Indy car racing. And quite frankly, neither of them are working. He's not doing a very good job here, and his Indy car racing is suffering as well.
And he doesn't particularly care to run that fast to Indianapolis. He qualified on the pole, and second rookie had ever set on the pole in Indianapolis, some 207 miles per hour a year ago in that March. He said, I'd just as soon not do that again.
Well, he wasn't as fast this year as he was last year. But seeing that shot of the chicane, it brings to mind again just how lucky Stefan Beloff was with that crash, and it shows the fine line between total disaster and just another accident, because if the front wheel hit that wall, it would have completely, totally destroyed the car and possibly hurt Stefan Beloff badly.
Let's take a look at the pro spinning as you see Derek Warwick now in 5th for a moment. Here he is.
Yeah, you see, he just completely loses it there. He wouldn't really be hard on the accelerator. He must have some sort of an oversteer problem. Of course, it might be very oily there, but then it's oily for everybody.
With 39 of the 63 laps complete in the Detroit Grand Prix, coming to you live on CBS. Watching Nelson PIQUET, the leader. Let's check the attrition as to those who have fallen by the wayside in the going on this very tough, very rigorous 2.5-mile, 20-turn course. Those are the cars which have now retired. Mark Schur being listed as a DNS that did not start after that crash when they came off the line the first time we had a complete restart. 12 cars reported out. 12 cars out. The latest Helio. Lauda's car is out. We just saw the Alain Prost car spin, but he is back on the way, and he is reported in 7th position. Fabi is in 8th. Lafitte is in 9th. Beloff is in 10th. As we work our way to the 40th of 63 laps, with the leader continuing to be this man, Nelson PIQUET, and car number 1, just a magnificent ride. They moved him. There's the Renault. Battle for 5th there, they're reporting. Warwick there. Brundle with him.
Martin Brundle putting on a really good show here. He came second in the British Formula 3 Championship last year to Ayrton Senna. And they both did such a good job that both of them got drafted straight into Formula 1 and missing out the Formula 2 step on the way. And both of them doing an incredibly good job in Formula 1, although Martin, of course, is going to...
The Renault's in trouble and slowing down.
So that puts Brundle up to 5th spot.
something to miss on the Renault. Way off the pace now.
Sounds terrible.
Ailing. And I think pulled out.
Drove down the escape route.
Said good night. So that is it on the effort by Derek Warwick here today. And he has had such a good year going. A second in Belgium. He had a third in South Africa. But it's not to happen today for Derek Warwick. More live from the Detroit Grand Prix after these messages. Past Detroit University from the Goodyear blimp, you're watching the leader, Niki Lauda, skirt this 20-turn turf at Detroit in the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix. There is the Goodyear blimp giving us those marvelous pictures today. Nelson PIQUET is staying in first, averaging 82 miles per hour, and Alain Prost, currently number one in the world standings, is in trouble. Tire down.
Well, again, going to the gloom of that tunnel, that relatively low pace. He'll be glad when he pops out this end of the tunnel, but he won't be glad about that flat tire. That's probably almost certainly why he spun 2 or 3 corners ago, 2 or 3 laps ago, with that tire already deflating.
This will move Fabi up into the 6th position. Prost had been in 6th. Here he is headed back for the pits.
So Fabi will get a point.
Going right back into the pit area. Alain Prost.
These stiff cars are very difficult when they have a flat tire because it lifts the tire and the one off the floor.
There he is stopping on the mark. A man who has won 12 Formula 1 races, 3 this year. Having his problems here today.
The lead has just passed, so that puts Alain Prost 1 lap down. Not a good day for McLaren International. There's Alain Prost just leaving the pits now.
The leader is averaging 82.5 miles per hour, breaking all records at the distance. 40 laps complete. The old record belonged to Nelson PIQUET of a year ago at 80.962. New record 82.531. So this man, number one, leading by 21 seconds over Michele Alboreto. And here's a note from Chris Economaki.
Well, David Hobbs, eat your heart out. The glass may be plastic, but the wine is a 1976 Corton Charlemagne. I am in the Renault pavilion on the veranda here, catered as only the French can cater something. It's not beer and it's not Italian sausage. It's life at the top. And if you're interested in what it was like here last year, the statistics show that last year's Grand Prix guests consumed 6,360 bottles of mineral water, 990 bottles of champagne, 12,860 bottles of assorted liqueur, 13,800 shrimp, and 15,000 egg rolls. Definitely not your beer and hot dogs crowd. Now down to the pits and Barry Gill.
Patrick Tomba, you just heard Chris Economaki describing how the Renault people are celebrating. What are you going to say about that?
Well, I could do with a burger and a beer myself, but it's been a short day for us. We both have gearbox problems apparently. Not gearbox, but differential. It's a tough track on gears, and like always, very little number of finishes here.
Well, there are only 9 left in the race now, and as you said, Patrick, not a long way to go. Do you think this track is too tough?
Oh, well, it's the same for everybody. We just have to build up our race cars accordingly, but they're built to run on smoother track, and all the bumps and on the surface makes it very difficult, especially with the increase of power with the turbos and the transmission are taking a beating.
Patrick, thank you for talking to us. You've had a chance to have a break. Let's go over to Derek Warwick, who hasn't had a chance to have a break. A very disappointed-looking Derek Warwick. Derek, how do you feel?
Well, you know, I mean, we climbed back up, second place was on for sure, car was perfect, and 5th gear exploded. You know, I mean, we've had gearbox problems now for 8 races, and 5th gear just exploded for no reason at all. You know, it's no wonder I'm disappointed.
Derek, I'm sorry we share your disappointment. Thanks for talking to us. Ken, as you can see from Derek Warwick, very disappointed man. You know what it means to these guys when they're in the points. I'm sure David Hobbs will appreciate their feelings.
David, a Constructor's Championship at stake here, too, and this is one of those courses where they actually run over railroad tracks like they used to way back when, and this really puts a lot of pressure, not only on the driver, but on the people who build them.
I think, Derek, the point he was trying to make there was that they've had this gearbox trouble consistently throughout the season, and what he wants to know is when is all this money going to get spent on fixing this problem. And I can understand his frustration, yeah.
44 of 63 laps are complete in the 1984 Detroit Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet continues in first. Michele Alboreto is second. More in a moment. We're back with you live at Detroit, the Grand Prix. You are watching Great Britain's Martin Brundle, who is having his best race today. He has just passed Piquet Rosberg, the 1982 world champion, with this Ford Cosworth Tyrrell car. There's the leader, meanwhile, Nelson Piquet, who is drawing out in front of Michele Alboreto in second. His lead now some 15 and 6/10 seconds. He pulled away by several seconds after he had lost some ground. Piquet first, Alboreto second, D'Angelo's third. Brundle has come to fourth. This is only Martin Brundle's 7th Formula One race. He scored a point in his very first race at Brazil. Right now he can pick up a couple of points at least. Maybe more before it's over. Here's Barry Gill.
Ken, you and David should know that there's a major problem with Nelson Piquet. They put a sign out saying intercooler, come in. What that means is that a piece of paper blowing about these Detroit streets has blocked the intercooler. That could mean the engine will blow up. It happened to Fabi, if I remember rightly, in Brazil. It is a big problem for Nelson Piquet, and they want him to come in now. The amusement was not for Piquet. Mr. Fabi is tickling it on his way by. But I can assure you that Piquet won't be tickled if he doesn't see the sign and if his engine blows up. So a problem for the leader, and we're standing by for a pit stop by order.
13-second separation, so once again, Alboreto is closing the ground in this accordion-like battle for first place.
Well, we can't see it on that picture, but if he's got paper blocking the intercooler, he's in big trouble, because when these run these engines, it's like 2 bar or 2.5 atmospheres. It gives a tremendous heat to that pressure, to the charge that goes in, and those intercoolers are vital.
Racing through the streets of Detroit, through the Atwater Street Tunnel. Now onto the artificial portion of the course. And here is Piquet, and the drama begins to build again.
No doubt.
The tempo to these races, they come down, they rebuild, and right now the focus is on car number 1, perhaps developing a problem. And there's the second place car, and he is closing in. Michele Alboreto trying to win the Detroit Grand Prix 2 years in a row.
These races have a tremendous excitement to them. They don't have the constant lead changing that the NASCAR racing that American viewers are so familiar with. But on the other hand, yes, on that left-hand part, you can definitely see a white, great big piece of paper stuck in there. But if he stops to take it out, he's almost certainly going to lose the lead.
Alboreto won here last year, won at Las Vegas, won victory this year. Niki Lauda has come back on the course. Niki Lauda is back on the track. And with the attrition continuing to develop,
well, he must be many laps down.
8 cars are now running. 8 cars are still running. We're showing 46 to 63 laps complete. 16 cars have retired. And Alboreto will give us 9 cars back with Lauda back on the track.
I would say that Keiko Rosberg's car is about to depart the track shortly, with the smoke coming out of it.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix after this word from your local station. K.K. Rosberg, running in 5th, had his day end in this manner. He has just retired the Williams Honda car and walked down the street to become a true pedestrian here. It's a long walk from where he fell out back to the pit area. Meanwhile, Nelson Piquet continues to lead. The Atlanta Golf Classic is coming up next today on CBS Sports. Stay tuned. Tom Kite has the advantage by 3 strokes there, and you'll see the finale of the Atlanta Golf Classic later this afternoon, next on CBS Sports.
And Niki Lauda has just got out of his car in the pits again, so I guess that lap he did was just an exploratory one.
Take a look in the replay, the last lap. Nelson Piquet came around. They are saying that Alboreto, is collecting him by about 2 seconds a lap.
Well, that's not a good place to get into trouble with that car parked just down there from the exit of that corner. Maybe his tires are going off. He may have a puncture developing.
No double parking here. Piquet in front, Alboreto closing.
Yeah, you can see that paper in that left-hand part. Oh, Alboretto's race is run anyway. Alboretto's out.
Alboretto having trouble, and he's coming out. The Ferrari that was in second place, last year's winner, retires.
So that makes Elio De Angelis in the world's Lotus third, and Martin Brundle in the non-turbo cars up to fourth. At this rate, he'll win it.
Now, the Ford Cosworth won here last year, and everyone said, not a chance, not a lick of a chance. And here comes the Cosworth back into it again today.
Well, Michele Alboretto's had a tough day. First of all, he got creamed against the wall, and now he's parked and walking back to the pit. That's two cars in one afternoon. Nelson PIQUET picking his way past that Dodge parked car, bouncing down the straight.
Now, with that cooler blocked up, he backs out of it. Does that save anything at all?
While he can turn the boost way down, at this stage in the game, they may signal him to do just that. It depends how far behind him Elio De Angelis is.
48 of the 63 laps are complete. Working lap 49 right now is Nelson Piquet.
It may be now that with the immediate pressure off, he could just slip in the pits and have the paper removed. That's up to him in the pits.
Elio De Angelis now finds himself second overall in the Detroit Grand Prix here on CBS. 50 laps have been completed. 13 remain in the third annual Detroit Grand Prix with David Hobbs. I'm Ken Squire. And pit side today, Chris Economaki and Great Britain's Barry Gill. Nelson Piquet stays in front. He has a 25-27 second advantage over Elio De Angelis in the second position. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm standing with a man who was surely the most disappointed man in Detroit. Michele Alboretto won this race last year. He was chasing Nelson Piquet just a few minutes ago. Michele, what happened?
I think the engine's broken. That's all.
No warning at all? Nothing in the cockpit to tell you it was going to happen?
No, I think it's something in the engine. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened, but there's an engine.
It's been a very adventurous day for you, hasn't it? There's been a lot of things happening.
Yes, because I have a lot of problems from the beginning of the race, because I had maybe one intercooler broken or something like that, and my power is very less than normal. I tried to continue my race, and a few minutes ago I'm in a good position, but it's not my here. I'm very unlucky.
Did you think you could have passed Nelson eventually?
If my car was good, yes, maybe.
Michele, better luck next time. At least you won one Detroit Grand Prix.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michele Alboretto, and while we're down here in the Brabham pit, let me just show you the detail that the Brabham team go to. If you look at this mechanic, you'll see he's wearing skateboard knee pads. That's to help him when he kneels down to do the tires. Now, the mechanics are in a position to accept Piquet, but with this great big lead, it doesn't look, Ken, as if he's going to make the pit stop we expected. Back to you.
Well, with a 27-second breather for a piece of paper, he could get in and get back out. He's still averaging 82.297 miles per hour after 50 laps. And it's another new record. He breaks his old mark from a year ago. That was 81.164. Another record established here in the Detroit Grand Prix by this man, Nelson Piquet, in his 86 Formula One Grand Prix performance. He's only finished one race this year. There is second place, and that is Elio De Angelis,
who's just about 26 seconds behind the leader. So Nelson's got time to come in and take that paper out if he wants to. On the other hand, he may see his temperatures are okay, and but these cylinder head temperatures on these cars go up so quickly if that intercooler, which you can see quite clearly there, is at least partially blocked. Elio De Angelis running in second spot. Third is Martin Brundle. Fourth is Teo Fabi, Nelson Piquet's teammate in the Brabham team, and Alain Prost has struggled his way back to fifth spot. Mind you, only 7 on Mount there, so 6 on Mount there.
De Angelis who started Formula One racing back in 1979. That time for the American team, the Shadow Ford. This is his 80th race today. There's Nelson Piquet, still in front in his 86th start today. He's carrying out that old adage about mind overcoming matter. Burn a foot or not, staying with it out here today in search of his 12th win. And remember, he hasn't finished the race except the one he's won in Canada. He's had turbo problems, he's had engine problems. In every race, Monaco, he's won after 15 laps. But here he is leading and trying to win back-to-back. At the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal last weekend to win the Canadian Grand Prix, and here at Detroit on the other side of the border, out in front with a 27-second advantage.
There you see some of the boats on the river separating Canada from the USA. In Detroit,
Canada to the south of us here, David. Rare scene. Lauda stays in front.
Piquet stays.
I'm sorry, Piquet stays in front. Lauda came back out.
Lauda's having one of those beer and sandwich that Patrick Campbell wanted. They're all getting absolutely mindless in the Renault tent. Sense of that down here, they're like.
Working the 53rd lap. Working lap 53 on this 2.5-mile course. Piquet first, the Angela second, and Martin Brundle has come to third with the Ford Cosworth. Teo Fabi now finds himself in fourth, and Prost is back up to fifth.
Hold on.
We don't have any cars though.
No, he's hanging in there, and of course, every point he can get at this stage is great for his cause. Because if Nelson was to win this race, I say if he was to win it, there's a long way to go yet, that would vault him instantly into third spot, only 6 points behind Niki Lauda, who's not going to get any points today.
Piquet is back down a bit. Last lap was at 79.2 miles per hour. He's coasting a bit as we get to the end. More from Detroit after this. Nelson Piquet has the luxury of toying with his lead here. The lead was reduced to 17 seconds, then he kicked it back up to 22.4. Last lap was at an average speed of 80.142 miles per hour. Piquet will really beat the odds if he wins here, as we see some of the crowd. He was in that start line crash, and he is running an untried backup car. It's all working for Nelson Piquet as he tries to win back-to-back here today in the Detroit Grand Prix. John Watson won it the first year, Alvarado in a big surprise the second year. Now we have one of those cars, those Tyrrell cars, show 8 laps to go, maintaining third place. Here's the second place car.
Really being eaten up by Martin Brundle in that Cosworth.
Martin Brundle in the Ford Cosworth coming on strong at the end as they said he would do, Ken. So that would be the advantage if they had any here. Was late in the going on the turbo-powered cars.
British heart beating fast as their young hero, Martin Brundle, winds in Elio De Angelis. But he's going to get by again. But there's another 10 laps to go yet. So everybody will be really rooting for Martin.
Actually, less than 8 now, they're reporting, as they head down Woodbridge. There is De Angelis, and there is Martin Brundle right with him, the newcomer. One of a score, well, not a score, 8 rookies this year came out for Formula One. We have seen this year. We're going to see Corrado Fabi at Dallas and unveiled.
Yes, the Fabi brothers, the Italian Fabi brothers, are splitting duty this year because Teo's first call is to kart races, second to him to Formula One, and when he's not driving, his brother's driving. It's a very odd situation because in Formula One, which is a little bit odd to say the least, you have to have the same name in the team. And somehow they've got away with Fabi as the number 2 driver. In fact, they're different Fabis. It appears to be beside the point there at Formula One.
Martin Brundle from Kings Lynn, England, home of some of the great Speedway motorcycle riders, moving in for second place on Elio De Angelis.
Lotus have had a pretty mixed weekend. They were so fast all through unofficial practice and, of course, the qualifying. Nigel Mansell missed the pole by nothing, having been fastest all the time. And now old Brundle is really going to stick it. Ooh, right after the chain, he makes a move. I can think of better places to overtake him, that right here.
Martin Brundle.
Boy, oh boy, they were lucky to get away with that. American ultimately, De Angelis is in big trouble.
There's the leader, Piquet. 55 of 63, now complete. 7 laps to go. Nelson Piquet leads in the Detroit Grand Prix. And the Detroit out there, Milwaukee Brewers today. I don't know how that one's going. Pretty good crowd out for that one, too. Record crowd here today at the Detroit Grand Prix, just a few miles away. We are at this point watching Nelson Piquet out in front, trying to win it all for the second straight season. 5 laps to go, and they come by this time. And here's the situation. Martin Brundle, with a normally outfitted Ford Cosworth, has closed within 17 seconds. He was lying 25, 28 seconds back with 3 laps to go, and he's definitely moving in on the leader, Niki Lauda. And this is the time when the turbos have been having fuel problems late in races. They've been running out of fuel as they get down to the bottom end of these races. Here's a report from Chris Economaki.
I'm standing in the Brabham pit. Bernie Ecclestone is quite concerned at the top there. With me is Tyler Alexander, a former owner of Team McLaren and now principal on Mayer Motor Racing that fields Tom Sneever's car in National Car Racing, and a seasoned expert on Formula One. That piece of paper, Tyler, on Nelson PIQUET's intercooler, how serious a problem is it?
Chris, it was, I would have said, quite serious early on when Alboreto was behind him and closing quite rapidly. Now he has a bit of a gap to Martin Brundle, and I think he's able to ease off of it. It's quite serious because it's what makes the engine work properly, and the piece of paper could be quite serious if he had to go quite hard.
Okay, an interesting point about Martin Brundle. He's driving a Tero car. Those cars have special plumbing on them where they stop late in the race, perhaps even on the last lap, to take on 3 gallons of water, 30 pounds, so that we'll meet the minimum weight. And it may be that Martin Brundle will have to give up second place to get his car back to the legal weight before this race is over. Back to you, Ken.
Martin Brundle continues to close in. Last lap of the leader was a 78-mile-an-hour average. Here's Barry Gill.
Chris, while you were up in the Renault thing, actually Martin Brundle made a pit stop. He's put in his 3 gallons of water. He's got his extra poundage. He did it in 9 seconds, so he's no problem, which is good news for Martin and the Tyrrell team. What I must just tell you is that if 2 cars drop out, this will be the race with the most attrition from any other race except Monaco in 1966. Monaco 66, only 4 cars finished, but there are only 16 starters. We've got 6 running out of 25. Detroit's been hard on them, Ken.
Nelson PIQUET still in front, but closing ground is Martin Brundle. We'll be back for the finish here at Detroit in a moment. There are 3 laps to go in the Detroit Grand Prix as the drama continues to build around this car. If it can go the distance on fuel, if it does not have an overheating problem. The second place car is Martin Brundle of Great Britain, who is closed within 16 seconds and is gaining back, gobbling up ground here at the end of the race with a Ford Cosworth. Brundle of Great Britain moving in on Brazil. Lead car for Team Brabham.
Now PIQUET has a strange problem. That is that the car in front of him, Alan Prost, is only going slowly. Couldn't well be forcing him on this last lap.
Final moment around the Ford Clubhouse turn for the final time. Here they come for the chicane. PK in front, driving to the finish. Checkered flag is out. And Nelson PK barely holds on to win.
What an incredible finish.
Martin Brundle will be second today. Ilio De Angelis is third. Teo Fabi is fourth. Alan Prost is fifth. And Jacques Lafitte finishes sixth. The winner of the Detroit Grand Prix is Nelson PIQUET of Brazil. For David Hobbs, Chris Economaki, and Barry Gill, this is Ken Squire saying so long from the Detroit Grand Prix.
Won 2 races in 8 days. He now has 18 points in the World Championship, but Martin Brundle has stamped his name in the history books here in Detroit today by coming a magnificent second for Ken Tyrrell in only his 7th Grand Prix. There's the final order, and look at the gap, 0.837 of a second. De Angelis 3rd, Fabi 4th, Prost 5th.
2 weekends and 2 victories for Nelson Piquet at Canada first, and now here at the Detroit Grand Prix. Nelson, did you have any troubles at all during the race, flag-to-flag victory?
Not really. I have some funny signals from the pits. I didn't know what it was. I slowed down a little bit. I was ready to start to catch, but all the time I have a car good enough to run away anytime I want.
Nelson, a lot of the Michelin-shod cars had to make stops for new tires, but you just kept going. It seemed like your tires were going to last forever. Were you driving in a different style today, trying to save those?
I saved a lot of times at the beginning of the race. I took a lot of easy, and I tried to have a less wheel spin possible, and I think it was that the reason. I don't know how come another driving.
You actually started the race in the spare car. Was that a psychological disadvantage? Did you think you could go as fast in the spare as in your race car?
No, the fantastic thing is to drive for a team that are able to produce a 2 winning car, because it's not easy to have a spare car exactly the same like a racing car. And I'm very happy for the mechanics. I'm very happy for the team to able to produce 2 fantastic cars to maybe to win the race.
To give you 18 points in the World Championship now also.
Yeah, that's very good. We had a very bad start, and I think, I hope we keep it like this.
On to Dallas. Congratulations and best of luck. Nelson Piquet.
Thank you very much.
So, Nelson Piquet jumps into 4th place in the World Championship. Prost, 10.5 points ahead of Niki Lauda, his teammate who didn't score today. De Angelis with some more points is 3rd with 19.5. But there is Piquet in 4th place with 18 points. In the Constructors' Championship, of course, McLaren still comfortably ahead. 58.5 points to Ferrari's 25.5 and Lotus's 24.5. So from Detroit, we stay in America. 2 weeks hence, we're in the South, we're in Texas for the new Dallas Grand Prix. And that will be a whole new story. Join us then.